Take a slow breath in, hold it gently for a moment, and then let it drift out like a soft wave settling onto a quiet shore. Welcome, my friend, to another peaceful night. Tonight, we will take a gentle journey through one of the most important years in English history. The year 1066, a moment when kingdoms shifted, cultures met, and the old world slowly made room for the new. But don't worry, here, the story moves softly, calmly, always in a tone designed to help your mind unwind. Before we begin, I want to thank you for being here, and if you enjoy peaceful historical journeys like this, I would be very happy if you subscribe to the channel. Your support truly helps these calming stories continue. Now, let the light in the room dim. Let your breath slow down. Let your shoulders loosen a little more, and allow yourself to drift back more than 900 years to a land shaped by forests, rivers, small wooden villages, and the soft echoes of the past. Imagine the island of Britain in the early 11th century, a landscape wrapped in misty mornings, quiet meadows, and long stretches of deep green forest. The world here moves at a slow rhythm, shaped by the rise and fall of the sun, by the seasons, by the traditions of countless generations who came before it. It is a land ruled by the Anglo-Saxons, a people who came across the sea centuries earlier and built kingdoms that grew, merged, and transformed over time. Villages sit by winding rivers. Long houses glow with warm firelight. Fields of barley sway in the breeze. Small churches stand quietly among the trees, their bells calling gently across the countryside. Life is simple, steady, and deeply rooted. But in the early months of 1066, the island is holding its breath. Something is changing. Something large, something approaching like a distant wave, and no one knows yet the full shape of this change. But everyone can feel it, like a shift in the wind for now, though the island remains quiet. Picture a small Anglo-Saxon village at the edge of a forest. The sky is pale with early morning light, the air crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and smoke from last night's fires. A thin mist lies low over the fields, slowly lifting as the sun climbs. Inside a modest wooden house, a woman stirs awake. She rises slowly, stretching her hands toward the ceiling beams beside her. The hearth glows with soft embers from the fire that burned through the night. She leans down and adds pieces of dry kindling, listening to the faint crackle that signals the flames waking again. Her husband and children sleep for a few more breaths, wrapped in blankets of wool. Simplicity surrounds them. Wooden bowls, woven baskets, a small chest holding treasured family items. Everything is handmade, everything purposeful, everything infused with the quiet dignity of daily life. The woman steps outside. A cool breeze brushes her face, carrying with it the calming scent of wet grass. She watches birds scatter across the sky, their wings cutting gentle arcs. Through the pale morning light in the field beyond the houses, a farmer leads his oxen along the damp soil. The oxen move slow and steady, their breath rising in soft clouds. He whispers to them, not in command, but in comfort, guiding them gently as he has done every morning for years. Meanwhile, children gather near the well, laughing in soft voices so they don't wake the younger ones still sleeping. They fetch water, their small hands gripping wooden buckets, their reflections rippling in the water below. Everything feels calm. Everything feels timeless. Everything feels safe. But beneath this peace lies an uneasiness. For in the great hall of the village's local earl, news has arrived. News that the king, Edward the Confessor, is gravely ill, and when a king grows weak, the kingdom grows restless. The future grows uncertain. Inside the great hall, torches flicker softly along the carved wooden walls. Men gather around a long table, their expressions thoughtful, their voices low. They speak about who might inherit the throne, about what promises were made, about who across the sea might claim England as their own. Outside, the day continues with gentle rhythm. Animals graze, Blacksmiths hammer metal with slow, focused strikes, and the river flows past the settlement with a calm, steady voice. Most people do not yet know how close they stand to the edge of history, for far beyond the northern horizon, in the cold lands of Norway, a mighty king named Harald Hardrada is preparing armies, and across the southern sea, in Normandiadaki Kielarda, a determined duke named William of Normandy is watching England, with fierce ambition, but for this moment, the island sleeps in peaceful ignorance as the sun moves across the sky. Shadows shift gently across the wooden homes, women grind grain into flour, men mend tools, children chase each other through tall grass, their laughter floating like soft birdsong throughout the village. Life is quiet, warm, and completely unaware of what the year 1066 will bring. Battles, claims to crowns, marches across the land, and a moment that will reshape the identity of Britain forever. But this is a sleep story, so we move slowly, gently, letting the details settle like soft dust on your thoughts. Feel the warmth of the hearth, the softness of woven cloth, the deep calm of a world moving at a peaceful, ancient rhythm. The Anglo-Saxons do not know it yet, but the world around them is changing, and tonight, under the calming weight of the story, you will drift into that world, feel its warmth, walk through its forests, and experience the year 1066 not as a violent clash, but as a quiet unfolding of destiny. Take another slow breath, let your chest rise gently, and fall again like a calm wave returning to the sea as you sink deeper into comfort. Imagine the island of Britain once more. Not loud, not chaotic, but wrapped in a blanket of soft winter light. The early morning fog lies across the fields like a sleeping spirit, and frost clings to the thatched roofs of wooden homes. The year is still fresh, quiet, and holding its breath. Inside a simple Anglo-Saxon house, a man wakes slowly, rubbing sleep from his eyes. The fire is climbing from soft embers back into a gentle glow. His wife hands him a warm cup of mead water, something sweet and comforting in the cold air. He drinks it slowly, letting the warmth move through him like a calm river. But today, unlike other days, people whisper. Today, the villagers walk with a strange heaviness in their steps. Today, the world feels slightly tilted, as if something is shifting just beyond the edge of sight, because the news has arrived. King Edward the Confessor has died. The message traveled from village to village, carried by riders who moved quickly through forests, streams, and frost-covered roads. By the time it reached this quiet settlement, the sun was dipping low behind a pale sky. People gathered around the messenger, their breath rising in small white clouds, their hands unconsciously clasping together as if to steady themselves. Edward had been king for nearly a quarter of a century, and though he had no children, he had been a comforting presence, pious, gentle, and stable. The villagers did not know him personally, but in a medieval world, a king was more than a ruler. He was a symbol of continuity, the living thread that bound the kingdom together. Now that thread had snapped, and uncertainty drifted across England like a winter wind in the great hall of the settlement. The local lord walks back and forth beneath torchlight, his expression thoughtful. The hall smells of burning wood, wool cloaks, and the faint aroma of spiced mead. Men sit on benches made of oak, drinking quietly, listening to the earl's low voice as he explains what the messenger has told him. It seems that on the very day Edward died, the powerful and respected Harold Godwinson was chosen as king. Many believe this is the best and safest choice. Harold is strong, experienced, and deeply familiar with the land. But others whisper doubts. They whisper about promises made long ago, promises that may have reached foreign ears even now. Far across the cold northern seas, Harald Hardrada of Norway watches England like a distant star waiting to fall, and farther still, across the channel in Normandy, William the Duke listens to the news with narrowed eyes and a quiet fire burning in his chest. But you don't need to think about danger right now. Just breathe slowly, deeply, letting the story comfort you, not worry you. Let's return to the quiet village. As the day brightens, villagers gather in the small wooden church. Inside, beeswax candles flicker softly, filling the room with warm golden light. The priest speaks gently, asking people to pray for the soul of the departed king. His voice is calm, steady, almost lullaby-like. In the small wooden pews, families bow their heads, whispering their quiet hopes for peace. Yet even as they pray, tension hums through the kingdom. The roads begin to grow busier. Messengers ride between earls, between monasteries, between ports along the southern coast. Horse hooves strike frozen earth, sending little bursts of snow into the air. The riders are wrapped in wool cloaks, their breath rising in gray clouds as they move from one village to the next. Harold Godwin's son, now King Harold II, moves quickly as well. His hall is alive with movement. Advisors speaking in hushed urgency, guards sharpening weapons, servants carrying messages, and scribes recording orders. Harold himself does not shout. He speaks calmly, clearly, but with a sharp awareness. He knows the storm is coming, and yet, outside the walls of his palace, the countryside remains so peaceful that it almost feels protected from the changing world. Picture a farmer kneeling in frozen soil, mending a fence. His wool tunic flaps lightly in the cold breeze. When he hears the news about the king, he stops for a moment, looking toward the distant hills. He knows that great events are unfolding, but they still feel far away. Like thunder that hasn't yet reached his valley, children run along narrow dirt paths, pulling each other on wooden sledges. Chickens cluck in the yards. Women gather near the well, their breath forming pale clouds as they exchange whispers about what the new king might mean for their families. Life continues with gentle rhythm, even as fate quietly rearranges the world behind the scenes. A few days later, Harold is crowned at Westminster Abbey. The ceremony, filled with prayers and chants, glows with both hope and tension. Candles flicker like stars along the stone walls. The choir's voices rise softly, echoing under high arches. People in the crowd feel the weight of history settling on their shoulders. It is a moment of unity, but also a moment of vulnerability, because across the sea, in Normandy, William watches the same moment with a completely different perspective. He believes the crown should be his. He believes that Edward promised it to him, that he believes that Harold swore an oath he has now broken. And William is not a man who forgets oaths. In his coastal strongholds, he begins to gather men, knights with polished armor, archers with strong yew bows, shipwrights who shape the curved oak keels of longboats. The sound of hammers rings across the docks. Horses are trained. Armor is polished. Plans are whispered. But once again we breathe slowly, because this is a sleep story. The storm is far away, for now. Back in England, Harold rides along the southern coast inspecting defenses. The sea stretches endlessly before him, calm, gentle, and shimmering faintly in winter sunlight. Waves fold into the shore with soft, repetitive music, like the rhythm of a lullaby. Harold watches the horizon not with fear, but with the quiet focus of a man who feels his responsibilities deeply. He knows William may come. He knows Hardrada may come. But he also knows the English people, sturdy, loyal, rooted in their land and traditions. As Harold rides, the wind brushes his cloak. Seagulls cry above him, their wings carving long arcs across the pale sky. The air smells of salt, seaweed, and distant storms. Yet still, nothing happens. Days pass, weeks pass. England breathes, and as winter begins to melt, softening the earth and filling the rivers with cold, fresh water, the kingdom settles into a strange mixture of peace and tension. Villagers continue their daily work, repairing roofs, tending animals, weaving wool, setting snares in the forest. Children splash in muddy puddles as the ice melts. Birds begin to return, filling the air with small bursts of song, and no one knows that within the year, this peaceful world will be shaken by three great battles: Fulford, Stamford Bridge, and Hastings. But for now, life moves gently. Imagine walking through an Anglo-Saxon marketplace. Wooden stalls line the narrow path. Smoke rises from cooking fires where women roast fish and warm bread. Craftsmen display wooden bowls, iron tools, embroidered cloth. A minstrel plays a soft tune on a small harp, his fingers moving lightly over the strings. The melody drifts across the market like a warm breeze. Everything is ordinary. Everything is calm. Everything is unaware of the history preparing to unfold. Harold returns to London, confident for the moment that the kingdom is steady. He sits in the great hall, beneath wooden rafters carved with symbols of old Anglo-Saxon kings. The hall glows with torchlight, casting warm golden reflections along the polished shields hanging on the walls. Advisors gather around him. They speak softly, respectfully, and Harold listens with calm patience. He makes decisions not with haste but with quiet resolve, like a man trying to guide his people through uncertain waters. And far to the north, far beyond the mountains and frozen lakes, Harold Hardrada is beginning to move. But that is a moment for later. For now, let your breath slow. Let your muscles relax. Let your thoughts drift like mist above a quiet Anglo-Saxon field. The year 1066 is only beginning. The great turning point has not yet arrived, and in this calm before the storm, England breathes in peaceful rhythm, waiting unaware, suspended in the soft glow of early spring. Take a slow, gentle breath, let your shoulders soften, and feel the tension melt away like frost under the first morning as you settle deeper into comfort. Imagine England once again, an island wrapped in soft spring air, its fields beginning to glow with the pale green of new life. The earth is waking from winter, though slowly, carefully, as if still reluctant to disturb the quiet that has settled over the land. Villages begin to hum with early year activity. Farmers mend fences weakened by frost. Women scrub wool cloaks beside the river, their movements steady and rhythmic. Children gather reeds to weave into baskets. Everything feels peaceful, slow, and deeply grounded. But beneath this surface, the world is shifting in ways the villagers cannot yet see. Word has spread that Harold Godwinson is now King Harold II, chosen by the Witan and crowned with solemn ceremony. Many breathe a sigh of relief. Harold is admired, strong, capable, tied to the powerful Godwin family, and knowledgeable about the ways of both war and governance. To the common people, this feels like stability, like the safe continuation of the world they know. Yet there is an unease that drifts through the kingdom like an invisible cloud. People speak of omens, a great comet that burned across the sky, leaving a long, eerie tail of light. Some say it is a sign of change. Others say it is a warning, but most simply whisper about it in quiet voices as they stir their evening stews or warm themselves beside the hearth. Inside a wooden hall in the countryside, an old storyteller sits by the fire, telling children about the comet. His voice is soft and raspy, like wind moving through tall grass. He says that comets are messages from beyond the world of men, signs that kings will fall and new ones will rise. The children listen wide-eyed, though not with fear. The firelight makes everything feel safe, warm, protected. Meanwhile, in Harold's court, the air is heavy with planning. Harold's advisors speak cautiously of the threats forming beyond England's coasts. They talk of William of Normandy sharpening blades and building ships. They talk of Harold Hardrada of Norway, a warrior king with ambitions as vast as the northern seas. They talk of Tostig, Harold's own brother, who has become a wandering spark of chaos after being driven into exile. But even there, even in the heart of political tension, the atmosphere is quieter than one might imagine. These men have known hardship all their lives. Their voices remain calm, their expressions composed. They speak of looming danger as though discussing the coming of a storm, inevitable, but still far away. Harold listens with steady patience. He is a man shaped by the English landscape, strong, grounded, living between the forest and the sea. He feels the weight of his crown, but he does not flinch beneath it. Instead, he moves through his hall with a sense of quiet purpose, determined to hold the kingdom together with both strength and gentleness. Outside, the River Thames glistens beneath the pale sunlight. Boats drift slowly across the water, their wooden hulls creaking softly as they move. Merchants from London carry goods downriver, their voices low and relaxed. Nobody hurries, nobody rushes. Time itself feels slower in this medieval world, as if every minute is stretched and softened by the rhythm of nature. Point 1 Early morning. Harold walks through the palace courtyard, his breath rising in small white clouds. A thin mist hangs over the ground, blurring the edges of the world. The sound of distant church bells drifts through the air, soft, echoing, comforting. Harold pauses, listening. He knows that danger will come. But he also knows this land, and he knows its people. He knows their loyalty, their resilience, their deep connection to the soil beneath their feet. For now, that is enough. Elsewhere in England, the forests are waking. The branches drip with melting frost, and the smell of damp earth rises into the air. Birds begin to build nests. Deer move quietly through the trees, their hooves pressing softly into the thawing ground. Streams run clearer and faster as the ice releases its hold. Imagine walking through one of these forests. Tall oaks rise around you like ancient guardians, their trunks thick and rough beneath layers of moss. Sunlight filters through the branches in delicate beams, illuminating floating dust motes that drift like tiny golden spirits. The forest floor is soft beneath your feet, a natural carpet of fallen leaves and new shoots. This is the England Harold is trying to protect, this quiet, ancient land with its winding rivers and rolling hills, with its simple villages and peaceful farmland, with its history stretching back through centuries of Celtic tribes, Roman roads, Saxon warriors, and now a kingdom standing on the edge of transformation. And somewhere across the sea, William of Normandy senses the shift as well. In his stone fortress above the Norman coast, William walks along a dim corridor lit by torches. His footsteps echo off the cold stone. Outside, the coastline lies silent under gray skies. The tide pulls back and forth with slow, powerful rhythm. And on the docks below, shipwrights are at work, shaping planks, carving timbers, building something vast. William's ambition is patient but unyielding. He believes the English throne belongs to him, promised by Edward, confirmed by Harold's oath. Now that Harold has taken the crown, William feels the pull of destiny growing stronger. But the sea is not yet ready to carry him. For now, the waves rise and fall in their ancient rhythm, keeping the two worlds apart. Far in the north, beyond misty mountains and frozen fjords, Harold Hardrada sharpens his battle axe beneath the pale Norwegian sky. His army of hardened warriors stands ready, their breath mixing with the cold morning air. Hardrada has fought across Europe, in the Rus lands, in Byzantium, in distant wars that feel like stories told around the fire. He believes England is the final chapter of his legend. Yet even his fierce heart waits, because something in the air feels suspended, like a world holding its breath before a great shift. Back in England, Harold attends to the quiet needs of the kingdom. He listens to disputes between farmers. He ensures that roads are being repaired. He sends messages to earls in the north and west, urging them to remain vigilant but calm. He speaks often of unity, of strength, of the deep bonds between the English and their land. Villagers hear rumors that foreign armies may come, but these rumors feel distant, like dreams that dissolve with the morning light. People continue their simple routines. They churn butter, tend to animals, carve wooden tools, repair fishing nets, knead dough, and hum soft songs while working at night. Fires burn gently behind cottage windows, and the smell of stews and herbs fills the air. Families gather around hearths, telling stories of ancient heroes. Beowulf, Arthur, Alfred, old kings and warriors who defended the island in ages past. These stories give comfort, reminding people that England has survived storms before and will do so again as spring deepens. Harold travels across the kingdom. He walks through markets where traders sell pottery, honey, wool, and carved bone trinkets. He visits monasteries where monks illuminate manuscripts with gold ink. He stops at villages where children chase chickens and play in the dirt. Everywhere he goes, people greet him with humble respect. They see him not just as a king, but as one of their own. Yet beneath the calm surface lies the subtle hum of something stirring. Messengers continue to arrive in London, their horses sweating, their cloaks dusty from long travel. They bring news of William's gathering forces, of strange alliances forming in the north, of restless winds blowing across the sea. Harold reads every message carefully. He does not panic, he does not rush, he prepares. But he also allows himself moments of stillness. One evening, Harold stands on a hill overlooking the countryside. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and soft pink. The fields stretch before him like a vast tapestry. Squares of tilled earth, patches of forest, winding streams catching the last light of day. The wind brushes gently against his face. Birds settle into their nests. The world glows softly, peacefully. Harold closes his eyes, just for a moment, and breathes in the scent of the land he loves. For now, all is calm. But soon, destiny will come crashing toward England like a wave. Yet that is for another part. For now, allow the quiet world of early 1066 to settle into your mind, like mist settling over a sleeping village. Let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts drift. Let England rest beneath its soft spring sky. Take another slow breath. Feel your chest rising gently, falling gently, like soft waves brushing the shore of a quiet island. Let your shoulders loosen, let your jaw relax, and allow your mind to drift into the peaceful early months of 1066, when England still rested in fragile calm. The land is slowly warming now. Winter's grip has faded into memory, leaving only small pockets of frost tucked into the shadows of stone walls and forest corners. The streams run clearer, lighter, glittering where sunlight touches them. And across the kingdom, people begin to step outside more often, repairing roofs, gathering reeds by the river, feeding their animals with a renewed sense of rhythm. Life feels normal again, steady, predictable, comforting. But somewhere underneath the stillness, a subtle tension hums like a distant drum, barely heard, barely felt, yet undeniably present. In villages across Wessex, Sussex, Mercia, and Northumbria, whispers ripple through the air. Mothers knead dough in their warm kitchens while listening to travelers speak of strange movements across the sea. Shepherds tending sheep along grassy hills overhear stories from passing messengers. Merchants at market stalls quietly exchange talk of Norman ambitions and northern restlessness. Still, most English families keep their focus on daily life. Their world is small, defined by fields, cottages, rivers, and the steady patterns of sunrise and sunset. The idea of invasion feels far away, like a tale from an old saga rather than a real possibility. In one such village, a small group of children gather near a grove of willow trees. They weave little crowns from fresh branches, laughing softly as they place them on each other's heads. The sun shines through the willow leaves, scattering playful patterns of light on the ground. To them, nothing is amiss. The world is gentle and familiar. Inside a nearby cottage, a woman sings a lullaby to her child, a soft, rhythmic melody passed down through generations. The tune blends with the quiet chirping of early spring birds. The soothing flow of her voice could calm even the most restless heart. Outside, an elderly man sits on a wooden stool, mending a fishing net. His hands move slowly, steadily, repeating gestures he has practiced for decades. He hums a low, peaceful chant, deep and warm like the earth itself. This is England on the surface, serene, unhurried, timeless. Yet in the halls of power, plans, fears, and decisions rise like a quiet tide. King Harold moves across the kingdom again, trying to strengthen the bonds of trust that hold England together. He rides through rolling hills, across wooden bridges, along dirt roads still damp from winter rains. His presence reassures the people. Many bow to him with humble respect. Others place hands over their hearts. Children peek shyly from behind their mother's skirts. Harold appreciates these moments, not for vanity, but because they remind him of what he must protect. One evening, Harold stops at a fortified hall belonging to a loyal earl. The hall glows gentle orange from firelight, the air filled with the scent of roasted meat and fresh bread. Men gather around the table, but the conversation stays soft and measured. They talk of harvests, fishing yields, minor disputes between villages. Harold listens with calm patience, offering solutions with a quiet, self-assured tone. He does not speak like a distant king, but like someone connected to the land. His voice is calm enough to lull weary travelers into rest. Later that night, long after the hall has quieted, Harold steps outside. He stands beneath a clear sky filled with cold, sharp stars. The moon hangs low, illuminating the landscape with a soft silver glow. The distant shapes of hills rise like slumbering giants. It is in this silence that Harold feels the weight of his responsibility most clearly. Not in battle, not in councils, but in quiet moments beneath the open sky. He knows danger is coming, he does not know when, but he feels it in the air, like a faint shift in the wind. Meanwhile, far to the north, beyond dense forests and wind-swept moors, tensions begin to stir among the nobles of Northumbria. Some resent Harold's rule. Others long for the return of Tostig, Harold's exiled brother. Old loyalties and old grudges shift like tectonic plates beneath the surface. But even here, life remains calm on the outside. Picture a simple wooden hall in a northern settlement. Torches line the walls, burning with warm golden flames that cast gentle shadows on the wooden beams. Men sit around the central hearth, speaking in low tones. Their accents carry the rugged music of the north. Outside, the wind whistles through the heather-covered hills, creating a soothing, rhythmic hum. The north is a land of jagged coastlines, deep forests, and ancient stone circles. Its people are tough, resilient, familiar with harsh winters and long nights. But even they can sense that something is shifting, something distant but approaching. Slowly, silently, let your breathing slow again. Imagine the wind brushing over wide northern moors. Imagine the soft scent of pine, the distant croak of a raven, the gentle trickle of a mountain stream. The world feels vast, but quiet. Now drift with me across the sea. Far across the cold North Sea, where Harold Hardrada sharpens his ambitions like a blade. In Norway, the morning sun rises over fjords that look like polished silver. The air is crisp, the landscape majestic. Longships rest on their shore stands, their carved prows curving upward like sleeping dragons. Warriors train in the frost, their movements slow and controlled, breath rising in the cold air. Harold Hardrada, tall, powerful, legendary, watches them with calm calculation. His face is hardened by decades of battle, but his eyes hold the deep stillness of a man who has seen the world. He is not agitated. He is not rushed. He is patient, like a mountain waiting for the right moment to shift. He believes England calls to him, not just for conquest, but for destiny. His advisors approach him with caution. They speak of opportunities. They speak of Tostig, the wandering brother of the English king, who seeks allies, stirring trouble like a restless spirit. They speak of omens, the same comets seen in England. Glowing across the Norwegian sky, Harold listens quietly, stroking his beard, his mind drifting back through years of campaigns. He remembers Constantinople. He remembers the rivers of the Rus. He remembers war songs sung in flickering torchlight. He decides he will go. Not tomorrow, not next week, but soon. Yet even now, the sea remains calm, and the waves have not yet begun to carry him toward England. Now shift your attention southward across the waters, toward Normandy. There, William of Normandy stands on a high cliff overlooking the gray sea. The tide rolls in slowly, whispering against the rocky shore. The sky is heavy with clouds, drifting like massive, slow-moving ships overhead. Below him, the docks are alive with the sound of hammers, saws, and voices calling commands. Workers shape the ribs of new ships. Blacksmiths forge metal fittings. Warriors practice sword drills on the packed earth. But William remains still, arms folded, cloak billowing gently in the sea breeze in his mind. There is no doubt and no hesitation, only a quiet, intense certainty that the throne of England belongs to him. Yet like Harold and Hardrada, William waits. The wind is not right. The timing is not right. The world itself seems to be aligning for something vast, something inevitable, but not, yet ready to unfold. Now return with me to England, to a monastery nestled in green hills. Inside, monks kneel in a cold stone chapel, chanting soft prayers that echo like distant water in a cave. Their voices blend into a serene, calming harmony that drifts through the corridors. After prayers, some monks return to their desks, where they illuminate manuscripts with quiet devotion. The slow stroke of quills fills the room with a delicate scratching sound, almost like a whisper. Gold leaf glimmers under candlelight. Blue and red ink swirl in intricate designs. These monks do not know the currents of war forming beyond their walls. To them, England is eternal, always changing, always surviving, always moving through cycles of hardship and peace. Outside the monastery, sheep graze along gentle slopes. The air is cool but pleasant. A light breeze brushes the grass in soft waves. The sky is pale blue, filled with drifting white clouds. Nothing here hints at the storms preparing to reshape the kingdom. Let yourself imagine walking along a quiet path through these hills. The earth is soft beneath your feet. Birds chirp softly in the distance. The scent of wildflowers drifts through the air. Every step feels grounding, safe, timeless. This is the England Harold loves. This is the England he will fight for. This is the England that will soon be changed forever. But not yet. For now, everything rests in a delicate balance. Days pass, weeks pass, spring deepens, the land grows greener, rivers grow fuller, the air grows warmer. England sleeps beneath a sky that holds secrets it does not yet know, and somewhere, on a distant shore, a wind begins to shift, so softly, so subtly, that only the keenest minds sense its warning. The year 1066 moves forward, one gentle breath at a time, toward a destiny that will reshape nations. Take a slow, gentle breath, let it fill your lungs like warm morning light, and then let it melt out of you in a long, peaceful sigh. Feel the world around you soften. Feel your thoughts drift into the slow-flowing rhythm of the story. A rhythm as gentle as a river slipping past mossy stones. We return now to England, an island wrapped in early summer light. The frost and cold of winter are long gone. The chill of early spring has faded. The air now carries the soft warmth of June, the kind that settles on your skin like a feather, warm enough to comfort, cool enough to soothe. The year is still 1066, though nobody living within it knows how historic it will become. For the people of England, it is simply another season, another turning of the earth, another moment in the long, steady rhythm of life. Picture the countryside. Fields sway with tall grass, bending gently to the wind. Streams sparkle beneath sunlight, gliding around smooth stones. Villages hum with quiet activity. Their timber. Houses arranged around open yards where children play and chickens wander freely. Life feels calm, predictable, safe. Yet beneath this peaceful surface, small ripples of tension stir the air. Like distant thunder far beyond the horizon, too faint to frighten, yet impossible to ignore, Harold, the new king, senses these ripples more clearly than anyone. He travels constantly now, riding along the winding roads of the kingdom, speaking with earls, lords, monks, farmers, and traders. Each meeting is calm, respectful, filled with the soft voices of early English conversation. People welcome him warmly, offering bread, ale, or a place by the fire. Harold listens to their concerns. He offers reassurance with a steady voice. He carries himself not as a distant monarch, but as a guardian of the land, a man woven into the fabric of England. Yet the whispers reach him everywhere. Normandy, Norway, Tostig, destiny. He hears the words spoken softly by merchants, murmured by traveling monks, hinted at by earls who glance toward the sea with concern. But for now, he keeps the kingdom, focused on stability. Imagine Harold stopping at a village near the southern coast. The salt air from the channel drifts across the fields. The wind carries the distant cry of seabirds. Children run barefoot along sandy paths, their laughter mingling with the sound of waves. A fisherman tells Harold of strange ship sightings far across the water. Small perhaps, but unusual. Harold listens quietly, placing a hand on the fisherman's shoulder with a gentle nod. He does not dismiss the concern, nor does he alarm the villagers. He simply tells them, "We will watch the sea, and we will be ready." His voice is calm, as steady as the tide. Across the kingdom, the wheat begins to rise higher, brushing against the ankles of farmers as they walk through their fields. Women gather herbs along riverbanks. Men repair wooden fences with slow, practiced movements. Young boys carve small wooden animals with their knives, creating toys that have existed in England for centuries. Everything feels ancient and grounded, as if the land itself is sleeping with one eye open, waiting for something it cannot yet name. In the north, the land changes, harsher winds, steeper hills, deeper forests. Northumbria remains rugged and proud, its people shaped by both Anglo-Saxon and Viking heritage. They speak with accents shaped by centuries of contact with Norse traders and warriors. Here, tension stirs a little more clearly. Some nobles are unhappy. Some feel Harold's rule is too distant. Some whisper the old name that still burns with resentment. Tostig, Godwin's son, Harold's brother, once Earl of Northumbria, now exiled, restless, and weaving plans across the sea. You can imagine Tostig wandering foreign courts, Norway, Flanders, Scotland. A man of charm but also bitterness, carrying the fire of rebellion inside him. His voice is soft and persuasive as he speaks to kings, urging them to consider England as ripe for conquest. Some listen, some ignore him, but one man hears him more clearly than all the rest. Harald Hardrada, the legendary king of Norway, hardened by a lifetime of war and adventure, begins to feel England calling to him like a distant echo. Tostig's words stir something deep within him. An old claim, a forgotten ambition, a final chapter waiting to be written. But even Hardrada, fierce as he is, does not rush. He waits for the right wind, the right moment, the right sign. And somewhere far south across the sea, William of Normandy feels the same pull. Normandy in early summer smells of salt, pine resin, and the smoke of shipbuilders' fires. The docks are alive with activity, though everything moves with methodical patience. Men carve beams for longships. Women carry supplies and weave sails. Blacksmiths hammer out nails and fittings. Knights train in the fields beyond the port, their armor gleaming in the sun. Yet William waits. He knows the sea can be unpredictable. He knows the timing must be perfect. He knows destiny must be seized, not rushed. Back in England, Harold tries to balance everyday governance with vigilance. He meets with monks at Westminster Abbey. He visits earls in their wooden halls. He sends messengers to watch the coasts. But he also ensures that life continues calmly for ordinary people. One hot afternoon, Harold walks through a London marketplace. The stalls overflow with goods. Clay jugs painted with simple patterns, fresh bread crusted in flour, salted fish hanging from hooks, bolts of wool dyed in deep reds and soft browns, tiny carved crosses made by monks. Merchants call out soft greetings to him. Children stare in awe. Dogs weave through the crowd, wagging their tails. Harold stops at a stall selling honey cakes. The baker, a round-faced woman with flour on her hands, offers him one for free. He smiles gently and places a coin on the counter anyway. He eats the cake slowly, savoring its sweetness, letting its warmth spread through him. It is a small moment, but a grounding one. Because beyond the calm, Harold knows the storm is forming. Days grow longer. The sun lingers in the sky until late evening, painting the world in gold. Shadows stretch across fields of wheat, creating long stripes of amber and brown. The air is warm, almost heavy, carrying the scent of summer herbs. At night, the stars shimmer above England like distant fires. Villagers gather outside their cottages, speaking softly as cool breezes drift over the land. They talk of harvests, weddings, the health of livestock, never fully aware that the fate of their island is being shaped far beyond their conversations. One night, a monk at a monastery on the northern coast records a strange sight in his journal. A faint orange glow far out at sea. It flickers for a moment, then disappears. The monk wonders if it was a distant ship, or lightning on the horizon, or perhaps nothing at all. His handwriting is delicate, his thoughts calm. He closes the journal, unaware that future generations will read it, searching for hints about the great changes to come. Meanwhile, Harold meets privately with his closest advisors. The meeting takes place in a dim hall lit by torches. The air smells of burning tallow and old wooden beams. The men speak quietly. They discuss Normandy. They discuss Norway. They discuss the possibility that both threats could come at once. Harold listens. His face remains calm. He answers with measured words. He knows panic helps no one. He knows fear spreads like fire. He knows England needs him to be steady. Later that night, Harold walks alone through the quiet corridors of his palace. The stone walls echo with each step. In the courtyard, a single torch flickers, casting long shadows that sway gently in the warm breeze. He lifts his eyes to the night sky. The stars look sharp, almost too bright. The air feels thick with something unspoken. Harold breathes deeply, feeling the weight of the crown, not as metal on his head, but as responsibility inside his heart. He whispers a quiet promise to himself, to protect England, to protect its people, to face whatever destiny brings. Meanwhile, in a village far to the west, a young shepherd lies on a grassy hill at dusk. He watches the clouds drift slowly across the sky, turning soft shades of pink and orange as the sun sinks. His sheep graze peacefully nearby. He sighs contentedly, unaware of the world-changing events moving toward him. That shepherd's life, his quiet days, his simple routines, are exactly why Harold fights so hard. Because England is not just land. It is people, families, villages, history, home. And now, the summer deepens, warm winds blow across the channel. Birds sing late into the evening. The fields glow with life. But in the distance, faint and almost unnoticed, Ships begin to gather. Armies begin to move. Destiny begins to tighten. The storm that will define 1066 is drawing nearer. But not yet. Not tonight. For now, breathe slowly. Feel the softness of the story wrap around you. Feel England rest beneath its warm summer sky. Take another slow, peaceful breath. Feel your entire body soften, as if you're sinking gently into warm, comforting waves. Let your mind drift back to England, to the soft, glowing heart of summer in 1066. A world both quiet and trembling with unspoken change. The days are warm now, stretching lazily into long evenings. A golden haze rests over the fields each afternoon, shimmering above rippling grasses. The wheat grows tall, brushing softly against the legs of farmers as they walk between the rows. The sweet scent of wildflowers drifts on the air. Bees hum gently from bloom to bloom. England looks peaceful, almost dreamlike, yet beneath the warm glow, something subtle stirs. A shift, a tension, a quiet tightening of invisible threads. Harold feels it. The earls feel it, even the villagers, though they cannot name it, feel it like a faint tremor beneath their daily routines. But still, the land remains calm. Imagine standing at the edge of a broad, green meadow just as the sun begins to set. The sky burns softly with shades of orange and pale rose. In the distance, cows graze lazily, tails swishing in slow rhythm. A river winds gently between the hills, reflecting the sky like a long ribbon of silver. This is the world Harold is trying to protect. One warm morning, Harold rides to a coastal village overlooking the English Channel. The sea stretches endlessly before him, calm, glimmering under the sun like a sheet of polished glass. A few fishing boats bob gently in the shallow waves, their oars resting on the sides. He speaks to the villagers, reassuring them that England is strong, that the coasts are being watched, that there is no reason to fear. His voice is soft, steady, soothing. He stands with the relaxed posture of a leader who wants his people to feel safe. A fisherman approaches Harold, wiping salt water from his beard. He says that the last few nights he has seen unusual shapes far out at sea. Too far to identify, too faint to alarm, but not ordinary. Harold listens quietly, nodding, absorbing every detail without revealing the weight it places on his mind. He thanks the fisherman with a warm smile, then turns his gaze toward the horizon. The sea remains quiet, but Harold can feel the world shifting beyond it. Days pass, weeks drift by. The coast becomes a place of watchfulness. Riders move along the shorelines. Messengers carry notes between villages. Young men practice with wooden spears. Carpenters repair boats. Lookouts climb cliffs to scan the water. But the sea reveals nothing. For now, far inland, villages continue their peaceful routines. Women stand outside their cottages, hanging newly washed woolen cloth on lines that sag gently between wooden posts. The cloth smells of soapwort and river water, drying in the sun. Children chase each other around the trees, their laughter echoing across the fields. In the evenings, families gather around their hearths. Bread bakes slowly in clay ovens, filling the house with comforting warmth. Stews simmer in iron pots over gentle flames, the aroma of leeks, barley, and herbs drifting softly through the air. Elders tell stories of ancient kings, of giants, of dragons, of spirits in the forest. These tales have been told for generations, woven into the fabric of English memory. In them, heroes rise and fall, storms come and go, but the land endures. This sense of endurance gives people a quiet resilience. Back in Harold's Hall, the mood grows more serious with each passing day. Advisors gather around long wooden tables, maps spread out in front of them. They speak in low, controlled voices, exchanging rumors and reports. Normandy is restless. Norway is watching. Tostig is stirring the embers of old grudges. Harold listens to each voice, absorbing the information with steady patience. He does not let fear ripple through his court. His calm is a shield, protecting those around him from panic. At night, Harold walks through the torchlit corridors of his residence. The stone walls glow softly under the flickering flames. The distant sound of guards' footsteps echoes gently in the halls. When Harold steps outside into the courtyard, the night breeze greets him with a tender coolness. The stars glitter above him, scattered across the sky like tiny silver seeds. The moon hangs low, casting a pale, calming light on the stones beneath his feet. And in these moments of quiet, Harold cannot help but wonder what choices lie ahead, and how the fates will twist the threads of this year. But he does not despair. He breathes deeply. He remains steady. He stands rooted in the earth like an ancient oak. Meanwhile, far in the north, something begins to shift more clearly in the rugged landscape of Norway, where mountains rise sharply and fjords cut deep into the land. Harald Hardrada holds council with his warriors. They gather in a long wooden hall, its beams darkened by age and smoke. Torches flicker along the walls, casting long shadows across thick shields and iron weapons. Tostig sits beside Hardrada, speaking in a quiet, persuasive tone. He tells Hardrada of England's divisions, of nobles who resent Harold, of opportunities waiting to be seized. Hardrada listens silently, his blue eyes steady, his thick beard resting on his chest. He is a man who moves with slowness not because he hesitates, but because he measures every thought, every possibility, every omen. And then, in the stillness of that hall, Hardrada makes his decisions. But not yet in action, not yet in movement, only in intention. The sea still waits, calm and deep, for the moment when its waters will carry him south. Now drift with me across the water to Normandy, where William continues his preparations with the mind of a strategist and the patience of a hunter. Normandy is alive with activity, but it is not loud. It is not chaotic. It is deliberate. Knights ride through open fields, their horses' hooves thudding gently on the earth. Smiths hammer out iron in steady, rhythmic pulses. Shipbuilders shape curved keels and ribs from ancient oak, shaving them smooth with long strokes of their tools. Sails are woven from thick cloth, dyed in muted colors that ripple like waves in the wind. William oversees everything with calm intensity. He moves through his camps with silent purpose, speaking only when necessary. His men respect him as someone who does not waste energy, a man whose ambition burns quietly, relentlessly. Yet even William waits for the tides, the winds, the shifting balance of destiny. And destiny, it seems, is beginning to murmur. But in England, the land still moves gently. Imagine a monastery tucked among rolling hills. Inside, monks sit in a scriptorium carefully copying manuscripts. The room is filled with soft scratching sounds, quills gliding over parchment, and the faint scent of ink and candle wax. One monk pauses to rub his tired eyes, then gazes briefly out the window. The hills glow under the warm afternoon sun. Sheep graze lazily. Birds flutter through the air. There is no sign of war, no sign of invasion, only peace. He returns to his writing, unaware that the peaceful world he sees will soon be shaken. In another part of England, a blacksmith works late into the evening. Sparks fly with each strike of his hammer, bright against the darkening twilight. He is making tools, scythes, knives, horseshoes, not weapons. The idea of war feels distant to him. His world is made of iron, fire, and the quiet rhythm of his craft. Nearby, a group of young men practice archery in a field. Their arrows thud softly into wooden targets. They practice not because they expect war, but because it is tradition, a skill passed down through generations. They laugh, compete playfully, and enjoy the warm evening air. Nothing in their faces reveals any sense of the storm approaching, and yet, far across the sea, the first hints of that storm begin to take shape. The winds shift, the tides roll in unusual patterns. The air feels heavier, as if the world itself knows something is coming. Harold senses it. His advisors sense it. But for now, England continues living its simple, steady, gentle life. Summer deepens. Grass grows tall and lush. Flowers bloom in bright colors across meadows. Nights are warm, filled with the soft hum of insects and the distant hoot of owls, and somewhere, far beyond the calm landscapes, armies begin to gather, but not yet fully, not yet decisively, not yet close enough for England to feel the full weight of their approach. For now, the story remains soft. The world remains calm. The year 1066 remains suspended between peace and upheaval, and you can breathe slowly. Let your muscles loosen. Let your thoughts drift like leaves on a gentle stream. Take a slow, peaceful breath. Feel your chest rise softly and fall even softer. Let your arms rest. Let your jaw ease. Let your whole body sink deeper into comfort as the story returns to the gentle world of 1066. An England drifting through the warm heart of summer, unaware of how quickly everything is about to change. The air is warm now, but not heavy. Sunny days unfold like golden ribbons stretched across the land. Villagers wake early, their windows glowing with the soft morning light. Dew clings to the tall grasses. Birds sing from thatched rooftops. Farmers lead cattle toward green pastures, their boots brushing through moist earth. England, at this moment, feels timeless. But far beneath the calm surface, a quiet tension coils like a sleeping serpent. Harold feels it. His advisors feel it. Even wandering monks sense a shift in the air. A subtle wrongness, like a distant drum beating behind the hills. Still, daily life moves with gentle rhythm. A woman washes clothes in a river, the fabric slapping softly against smooth stones as she scrubs. The water is cool, refreshing, carrying the scent of moss and summer leaves. She hums a low tune, one her mother taught her. The melody floats upward, mingling with the soft murmur of flowing water. Nearby, two young boys chase each other, laughing as they splash through the shallows. Their laughter is the bright, carefree sound of a world that still believes peace is endless. Further up the hill, a shepherd sits beneath the shade of an oak tree, watching over his flock. The warm breeze caresses the grass, creating a slow-moving sea of shifting green. He closes his eyes briefly, lulled by the soft bleating of sheep and the distant chirping of birds. The peace feels complete, but the shepherd, like many across England, has heard whispers of ships in the south, whispers of warriors in the north, whispers of a year that will not end quietly still. The world around him seems too calm for such stories to be real. Meanwhile, Harold travels again, never resting for long, always moving across the kingdom like a guardian spirit. His horse carries him over hills glowing in sunlight, through forests dappled with shade, and along dusty roads lined with wildflowers. Harold stops at another village, where the people gather around him. Their faces show worry mixed with admiration. They know he is doing everything he can to protect them. He speaks with a soft but confident tone, reminding them that England has weathered storms before. But Harold's voice, though steady, carries a weight it did not have in the spring. He has received new reports. Reports that the north is becoming restless. Reports that Tostig is gathering men. Reports that something vast is beginning to move. But Harold does not share every detail with the villagers. He wants them to feel safe. He wants them to sleep peacefully under the warm summer sky. After the gathering, Harold walks alone toward the nearby coastline. The sea stretches endlessly before him, shimmering under the sunlight. Waves lap gently against the rocks. A gull cries above, circling in slow arcs through the air. Harold watches the horizon with quiet intensity. He knows William is preparing. He knows Hardrada is watching. He knows his brother Tostig wanders with dangerous intention. The sea looks calm, but Harold can feel the world shifting behind it. Let your breath flow gently now, soft, steady, calm. As we drift north, far from the golden fields of southern England, the landscape changes. Rolling hills grow steeper. Stone walls appear in place of wooden fences. The wind sharpens, carrying the cold memory of distant mountains. This is Northumbria, rugged, proud, ancient. People here are different from the soft-spoken southern villagers. Their heritage is mixed with Norse blood. Their dialect carries the rough music of Viking ancestors. Their songs echo with tales of sea kings, longships, and epic journeys in a stone-built hall near the northern coast. Nobles gather around a long wooden table. Torches flicker, casting shifting shadows across their faces. The air smells faintly of pine and smoked fish. They speak in hushed voices, but the tension between them is unmistakable. Some support Harold. Some resent him. Some whisper the name of Tostig, believing he should return as their earl. The hall fills with disagreement, quiet, tense, simmering beneath the surface. But even these nobles do not yet know how close they are to a storm far greater than their quarrels. Further north still, beyond hills covered in heather and streams flowing with melted snow, a solitary rider moves across the landscape. His cloak flutters behind him in the cold wind. His horse moves with steady endurance across rocky ground. This rider carries a message that will change the fate of England, a message that will set the north ablaze, a message that will pull an ancient giant from across the sea. He travels day and night without rest. He sleeps only when the moon hangs low and his horse grows weary. He eats quickly, then rides again, pushing harder, faster. His destination is a distant shore. His message will awaken Harold Hardrada, but for now, the rider continues north through mist, through shadows, through the quiet stretching of destiny. Let your breath slow again. Feel your eyelids becoming heavier as we drift further into the soft unfolding of this story. Meanwhile, in Norway, Hardrada stands atop a stone cliff overlooking the fjord. The evening sky glows with deep purples and soft reds. The water below reflects the colors like a giant mirror. The air is crisp, scented with pine and cold sea salt. Hardrada closes his eyes, feeling the wind brush against his battle-worn skin. Something is calling him, a destiny unfinished, a promise made years ago, a claim he believes he must pursue. He hears footsteps behind him. The rider has arrived, breathless, exhausted, dust covering his cloak. He kneels before the king, holding out a sealed message. Hardrada breaks the seal with rough fingers. The wax cracks softly. Like a quiet whisper, he reads the message slowly, his eyes narrowing with each line. Tostig's invitation, Tostig's promise, Tostig's warning. England is vulnerable. England is divided. Harold has enemies. Hardrada lowers the message. The torchlight flickers behind him, throwing shifting shadows across the stone. He does not speak. He does not smile. He does not show excitement. He simply breathes, deeply, slowly, as though absorbing the weight of a decision already made in his heart long before this moment. But he does not act immediately. He waits. He watches the water. He studies the sky. Hardrada is patient. He does not rush destiny. While this tension spreads quietly across the north, Harold in England remains unaware of how quickly it is escalating. He returns to London, where the city bustles with summer activity. The Thames glides softly under wooden bridges. Merchants call out prices in calm voices. Horses pull carts filled with wool, grain, and pottery. Smoke rises from bakeries, carrying the scent of fresh bread through the narrow streets. Inside his hall, Harold meets with scribes, nobles, and church leaders. They discuss harvests, taxes, and disputes, normal concerns for a king. But beneath their words lies a shared worry. The summer is too calm, too quiet, too still. Harold feels the tension tightening inside him. Yet he remains a pillar of calm for his kingdom. When the meetings end, he steps outside to breathe the warm evening air. The sun sets behind the city, painting the sky with soft hues of lavender and gold. The church bells toll slowly, their sound deep and soothing. Harold closes his eyes and lets the sound wash over him. For a moment, peace fills him entirely. But that peace will not last. Northumbria begins to stir. Harold Hardrada begins to prepare. William of Normandy watches and waits. And England, still unaware of the scale of what is coming, moves gently through the last quiet days before the storm. Take another slow breath. Feel your body melt deeper into relaxation. And when you're ready, we will move softly into the next long, calming chapter. Take a slow, gentle breath. Let your chest rise softly and fall even more softly. Feel your body loosening as the world of 1066 returns around you like a warm, calming fog settling across the land. England now rests in the warm center of summer. The fields shine with gold. Sunlight spills over cottages, turning their thatched roofs into glowing crowns. Rivers move in slow silver ribbons, their surfaces shimmering beneath the blue sky. Everything is bright, warm, peaceful. Yet beneath this peaceful world, a quiet strain tightens. The air itself feels heavier, not with heat, but with anticipation, like the stillness before a distant storm. Most people do not notice. They tend their farms, their families, their small joys, but the nobles feel it. The monks feel it. Harold feels it in every slow breath he takes. Still, England moves with gentle rhythm in a meadow near a southern village. A group of women gather bundles of lavender. The air is rich with the scent of the purple flowers. Bees drift lazily from bloom to bloom. The women hum as they work, the soft, lilting melodies rising and falling like waves. Nearby, children weave crowns from long strands of grass. They laugh quietly, their feet brushing through the soft summer earth. One girl places a crown on her younger brother's head, and he beams with simple pride. Nothing in this moment reflects the storms gathering far beyond their knowledge. Yet the world is shifting. Harold senses it deeply that he sits in a quiet chamber of his London residence, reading reports, brought by messengers who ride through day and night. The room is dim but warm, lit by beeswax candles that flicker gently. Outside the window, the distant hum of the city blends with birdsong. The reports are troubling but not surprising. Normandy is preparing, Norway is stirring. The north is restless, but Harold remains calm. His breathing stays steady. His mind stays focused. His presence in these tense moments feels like a large stone resting at the center of a lake. Heavy, steady, immovable. Later, Harold walks through the market streets to clear his thoughts. The summer sun warms the cobblestones. Merchants call out softly to buyers. Fishmongers lay out freshly caught river fish on wooden boards. Children carry baskets of herbs. A baker opens his oven, releasing a soft cloud of warm, sweet-smelling air. For a moment, everything feels normal. For a moment, Harold allows himself to breathe without the weight of kingship pressing on him, but soon, he turns his gaze to the distant skies. The way a man watches the horizon for signs of change. Far to the north, the change is already beginning. Imagine the rugged coastline of Northumbria, cliffs rising like ancient teeth from the earth, waves crashing gently against the rocks, seabirds calling overhead. The wind here is colder, sharper, even in summer. It carries the salt of the sea and the whisper of distant lands. In a large stone hall near the coast, nobles sit in tense conversation. Their voices are hushed but filled with old grievances. They speak of Tostig, Harold's exiled brother, and how some believe he should return to rule them again. Others fear his return. Others fear denying him. The hall is filled with the glow of torches, their flames swaying softly, casting moving shadows across the wooden table. One noble raises a hand, insisting they must remain loyal to Harold. Another slams a fist softly onto the table, arguing the opposite. A third calls for caution, reminding the group that England cannot afford internal conflict. Yet the name Tostig echoes like a ghost drifting through the thin northern air, and Tostig himself is closer than anyone realizes. He moves like a shadow along the wind of foreign courts. He whispers in the ears of kings. He offers promises, alliances, and the allure of revenge, and his words have found their most powerful audience. Harald Hardrada. In Norway, the preparations intensify. Hardrada stands at the heart of them, calm and deliberate. His warriors gather round, their armor gleaming softly in the sunlight. The great longships are being repaired and prepared, their curved wooden frames shaped by skilled hands who have built ships since childhood. The sound of axes cutting through wood fills the air. The scent of pine resin mixes with the sharpness of the northern wind. Men sing deep-voiced work songs. Keeping rhythm with their tools, Hardrada watches everything with unwavering eyes. He speaks rarely. When he does, his voice is low, resonant, steadied. He does not shout. He does not rush. He knows the weight of what he is preparing, that he knows England will not fall easily, that he knows Harold will resist fiercely, that he knows his own destiny may end in that foreign land. But still, he prepares. Meanwhile, across another stretch of water, William of Normandy continues his own preparations with surgical precision. Normandy's ports are filled with the slow, rhythmic work of shipbuilders. Timber piles grow high, sails are cut and stitched, horses are trained. Knights sharpen swords and practice in quiet fields. William moves among them silently, that he watches, that he measures, that he chooses the right moment with the mind of a hunter. He will not cross until the conditions are perfect. Yet even Normandy can feel the approaching shift. Like a warm wind carrying the scent of an oncoming storm, back in England, Harold tries to maintain stability, that he calls his earls to council. They sit around a long wooden table under a ceiling of carved beams. The hall glows with lantern light, warm and golden. Servants pour wine. Bread and cheese are placed before the men. Despite the tension, everything is calm. They discuss the coasts, the navy, the watchtowers, the northern unrest, Norman movements, Norwegian rumors. Harold listens more than he speaks. His quiet, thoughtful presence holds the hall in balanced peace. When the council ends, Harold steps outside into the evening air. The wind is warm. The sky is painted in soft hues of orange and lavender. The bells of London ring gently in the distance. He breathes deeply, letting the sound, the air, and the moment keep him grounded, for Harold knows what is coming. And yet, he must appear calm for the sake of everyone around him. Now drift with me to a small monastery on a gentle hillside. The monks here live simple lives, untouched by political turmoil. They wake with the sunrise, pray in soft voices, work in the gardens, copy manuscripts in quiet rooms filled with candlelight. One evening, a monk pauses while writing. His quill remains poised above the parchment. He looks out the window toward the horizon, where a faint red glow flares briefly in the twilight. That a ship's fire? Lightning? Or simply the sun dipping below the hills? He cannot tell. That he only writes a short note in the margins of his manuscript. A note that will be read centuries later by historians searching for signs. Then he continues writing, completely unaware that England will soon be visited by two of the greatest armies in its history. Elsewhere, a blacksmith shapes metal into tools beside the soft glow of his forge. Sparks leap into the air. The rhythmic strike of his hammer is almost musical, steady, soothing, hypnotic. He works with calm focus, unaware that within months, Men will come to him asking for weapons, not plowshares, for now. His world is small, warm, stable, safe. But the storm winds are rising. Across the distant seas, Hardrada's ships are nearly ready in Normandy. William sharpens his final plans in Scotland. Tostig gathers allies and stirs unrest. And in Northumbria, tensions reach their breaking point. Late one evening, as the sun bleeds into the horizon and the fields grow dim, Harold receives news he hoped would not come, news that sends a soft but undeniable ripple through the kingdom. The North is no longer just restless. It is beginning to rebel. Harold feels the message like a cold breeze running down his spine. Not fear, not panic, just the quiet recognition that the first thread of the storm has snapped. The year 1066 has turned another silent corner. The next phase is beginning. But not yet loudly, not yet violently, not yet with the crash of armies. For now, only quiet movement. Quiet murmurs. Quiet footsteps in the night. Take another slow, gentle breath. Feel your heartbeat settling. Feel the story wrapping softly around your mind. And when you're ready to continue deeper into this unfolding, soothing journey of 1066, take a slow, deep breath. Let the air fill your chest softly, and let it fade out even softer. Allow your mind to settle again into the England of 1066, where the quiet hum of life continues, even as the undercurrent of tension slowly begins to rise beneath the surface. The world feels peaceful on the outside, calm fields, warm breezes, gentle sunlight drifting across villages. Yet beneath this calm shell, the threads of fate pull tighter each day. Imagine dawn breaking over a mist-covered English valley. The fog rolls low and soft over the grass, like a blanket being slowly folded back. Birdsong echoes through the gray morning air in delicate notes. A single farmer steps outside, stretching wearily, then walks toward his small field with quiet footsteps. He does not know the storm approaching. He only knows the rhythm of seasons, the sound of soil under his boots, the warmth of the rising sun. Farther down the road, a shepherd guides his flock. The sheep move slowly, peacefully, their wool carrying dew from the grass. The shepherd hums softly to himself, creating a melody that drifts into the still air. His world is unchanged, timeless, yet across the country messengers ride. Hooves thud against the earth, cloaks whip behind them, dust trails rise in the warm sunlight. Some ride to Harold, some ride to Northumbria, some ride south toward the coast, where rumors grow like restless waves. The kingdom is beginning to breathe faster, even if the people do not yet feel it. Now imagine Harold again, standing on a stone balcony overlooking the Thames. The morning light glimmers on the surface of the river. Boats drift lazily across the water, their sails catching the soft breeze. The city moves slowly beneath him. Merchants opening stalls, bakers sliding bread from ovens, monks crossing courtyards. Harold's eyes are calm, but thoughtful. He knows the north is sliding out of balance. He knows Tostig's presence is stirring tensions like a finger trailing across still water. Yet Harold does not rush. He breathes, he observes, he waits. Inside the royal hall, advisors speak softly, aware that every decision now matters. They discuss troop movement, potential alliances, the readiness of the fleet. But Harold's voice is always steady, always measured, as if he is trying to keep not just England calm, but himself. He decides to travel north soon. But not yet. Patience, he knows, is still his greatest weapon. Meanwhile, far across the cold northern seas, Hardrada's ships are nearly ready. Wooden ribs creak softly as craftsmen bend them into perfect curves. Rows of shields hang along the hulls, freshly painted, catching the light like muted jewels. Hardrada walks between the ships with slow, heavy footsteps. He runs his hand along the wood. He closes his eyes and breathes in the scent of pine and salt. He thinks of England, not as a place of conquest, but as a final horizon. He has spent decades at war. He has seen kingdoms rise and fall. He has wandered, fought, ruled. and dreamed, and he knows. His story feels unfinished. Tostig stands beside him, wrapped in a dark cloak, watching the preparations with a quiet, restless intensity. His eyes flicker with a hunger that never truly quieted. He speaks softly, painting images of England ripe for the taking, of Northumbrian support, of Harold's supposed weaknesses. Hardrada listens but reveals nothing. He is too experienced to be swayed by passion alone. Yet the idea of one last great campaign settles into him like a seed. Now drift back to England, to a peaceful monastery where monks chant in low voices. The sound rises and falls like a calming tide. Candles glow softly against the stone walls. Dust dances in golden beams of light. One monk writes in a carefully illuminated manuscript. His quill glides gently across the parchment, but he pauses only when he hears distant thunder. Not from the sky, but from the coastline, where the sea crashes louder today than usual. That he feels uneasy, but he cannot explain why. Nearby, another monk tends the herb garden. His fingers brush rosemary, mint, and sage. The scents mix in the warm air, soothing and familiar. He whispers a prayer for peace, though he does not know what conflict he senses approaching. Villages across Northumbria feel a different kind of tension. Murmurs of rebellion stir in the mead halls. Some nobles speak openly about restoring Tostig. Others fear the consequences. Old loyalties clash with new realities. The air in the north feels sharper, colder, more unsettled than in the south. One evening, as the sun dips into hues of gold and red, a group of villagers gather by the shore. They watch the horizon with uneasy eyes. A strange ship has been spotted earlier, too far to identify, too silent to ignore. Some say it was nothing more than a merchant. Others whisper the word Norse. The wind grows colder that night. Harold receives the news 2 days later. A messenger kneels before him, breathless from the long ride. Harold listens silently, his expression calm but heavy. He dismisses the hall and stands alone for a long moment. The candles flicker. The shadows tremble on the walls. The quiet hum of the city fades beneath the weight of decision. The North must be addressed soon. Sooner than he hoped. Sooner than England is ready. But still, Harold takes a deep breath. He centers himself. He reminds himself that leadership requires stillness before movement. He will go north when the moment is right. Meanwhile, in Normandy, William receives reports too. Reports confirming that England is vulnerable. Reports that Harold's attention is divided. Reports that the winds might soon turn favorable for a crossing. William listens in silence. His mind is already oceans ahead. He sees the beaches, the shield walls, the final clash. But he waits like a predator just beneath the surface. And while the leaders of 3 great forces prepare, ordinary life continues gently. A mother sings her child to sleep beside a small fire. A fisherman pushes his boat into calm water. 2 older men play a slow game of dice outside a tavern. A young couple walks between tall trees, speaking softly about their future. A blacksmith shapes a horseshoe as sparks drift like tiny stars. England breathes, unaware of the approaching tempest. The world feels like a candle flame, small, warm, flickering, unaware of the winds preparing to sweep across it. Take another slow breath. Feel your body sink deeper into calm. Let your thoughts soften. Take a long, gentle breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let the air melt out of your chest like warm mist fading into evening. Now let yourself drift back into the soft twilight of England in 1066. A land wrapped in calmness on the surface, even as 2 distant storms quietly grow stronger by the day. One storm in the north, shaped by the sharp winds of Norway, and one across the channel, forming behind the disciplined walls of Normandy. But England does not yet feel the full weight of these gathering shadows. Instead, night falls softly across the countryside. Imagine the moon lifting through a haze of silver clouds, spilling cool light over the rolling hills. Gentle breezes move through the grass, carrying scents of earth, pine, and distant hearth smoke. Villagers finish their evening tasks, closing wooden shutters, feeding animals, whispering final prayers before sleep. Their world remains peaceful, still, unaware. Meanwhile, in the royal hall, Harold sits alone beside a low-burning fire. The flames shift in soft orange waves, reflecting off his thoughtful eyes. He is surrounded by silence, just the crackling of burning wood and the faint sound of wind against stone. That on the table before him lies a map of England, weighed down by iron candle holders. The shadows cast by the candles make the edges of the map look as though they are moving, breathing, alive. Harold studies the coastline, the northern routes, the vulnerable eastern shores. He traces each path slowly with his fingertips. He knows every mile. He knows every weakness. He knows every truth he wishes he didn't. The kingdom feels stretched thin. The nobles are restless. Rumors multiply like fading sparks drifting from a fire. Harold closes his eyes and lets out a slow breath. He does not fear battle. He has faced it many times. But he feels something deeper now, something heavier. The sense that fate itself is turning its gaze toward England, across the narrow sea. William sits at a polished wooden table, listening quietly as his advisors deliver reports. The room is filled with the scent of warm beeswax candles and the distant sound of waves outside the fortress walls. Normandy is calm, disciplined, ready, waiting. William's expression is steady, unchanging. That he rests his hands together, fingers interlocked, as though contemplating a long-awaited equation. The reports are always the same. Harold is strong, yes, but distracted. England is large, yes, but divided. The winds have not yet turned. But they will. William dismisses the council with a small gesture, then stands and crosses to the window. He looks out at the dark ocean stretching toward England. The moonlight traces a silver path across the water, like an invitation. He knows what lies at the other end of that path. He has rehearsed it in his mind again and again. His destiny feels close, almost tangible. Far north, Hardrada prepares too, but his preparations are different. His camp glows with the warm light of torches flickering in the cold night. Warriors sit around fire pits, sharpening blades, repairing armor, enjoying their last peaceful moments. Song rises through the crisp air, low, rhythmic, ancient. A calm before the storm. Hardrada walks between the fires, his cloak trailing behind him. He hears the songs, the laughter, the quiet murmurs of men who trust him. He feels the weight of his long life pressing against his chest. He looks up at the stars, cold, bright, watching. His mind drifts through memories of cities burned, kingdoms conquered, seas crossed. He feels a strange mixture of peace and anticipation, as though he knows this campaign will mark the final chapter of his long saga. Back in England, the nights grow longer. The winds grow sharper. Travelers bring whispers. Strange sails spotted near the horizon, unfamiliar banners glimpsed from cliffs, unfamiliar accents heard in distant taverns. Every rumor adds a new thread to the tapestry of tension weaving quietly across the land. At a small coastal village, a fisherman wakes early, before dawn, preparing to push his wooden boat into the cold water. As he steps outside, he notices a strange stillness. Even the gulls are silent. The sea looks darker than usual, almost metallic in the dim light. Then he sees it. A shape far off in the fog, a shadow that moves slowly, deliberately. His heart tightens. Not in fear, but in a quiet recognition that something in the world has shifted. He turns away, pretending he did not see it. Ignorance feels safer than truth. Meanwhile, in Wessex, Harold walks through a quiet orchard outside the palace grounds. The apples hang heavy on the branches, their sweet scent filling the cool evening air. Harold runs his hand across the ripening fruit, feeling their smooth surfaces beneath his fingers. This orchard has always brought him peace. Its rhythms never change. Its trees live far beyond kings, councils, and invasions. He pauses, looks up at the leaves glowing in golden light, and breathes deeply. He wishes the kingdom could stay this peaceful. He knows it cannot. Returning inside, he meets with his brothers. Their conversation is calm, measured, careful. Strategies, routes, potential allies. But none of them speak aloud, the truth sitting heavy between them. England may soon face more than one threat. Two storms may hit the shores. Not one, yet Harold remains composed. He moves with quiet certainty. He speaks with soft authority. He leads with the calm of a man who understands that panic only feeds chaos. Across England, noble households begin strengthening walls, repairing spears, storing grain. But all of it happens quietly, subtly, under the surface. Like animals preparing for winter before humans notice the change in air, and common people. They continue living. They plant. They harvest. They celebrate small festivals. They laugh in taverns. They tell stories by firelight. They cradle children as they drift to sleep. The calmness of everyday life stretches over the land like a warm blanket, even as fate threads itself through every moment. Life feels suspended, not yet broken, not yet threatened, but waiting for the first true sign, for the horizon to change, for sails to appear, for messengers to arrive at full gallop, for the moment when quiet becomes history. Take another slow breath now. Let your mind rest gently. Let the story settle around you. Take a slow breath. Feel your mind drift like morning fog over a quiet landscape. Let the world soften around you as we return gently to England, where the rhythm of life continues, unaware that history is beginning to gather itself like distant thunder in the early morning light. The kingdom feels peaceful, soft mist curls between the trees. The air carries the faint scent of damp earth and blooming heather. Birdsong rises in gentle waves, drifting across fields that glow faintly under the suns. First touched in a small village near the coast. A young boy walks barefoot along the edge of a meadow, watching the dew sparkle like silver beads. He doesn't know the significance of the year he lives in. He doesn't know kings are preparing for war. He only knows that the morning feels cool and the sky looks large. Meanwhile, inside a distant monastery, monks move quietly through arched corridors, their footsteps soft against the worn stone floor. Candles flicker in the dim light, casting thin golden halos against the walls. A slow, steady chant rises from the chapel, a peaceful hum that seems to hold the whole world in balance. One monk pauses during the chant. He feels something, a shift, a stirring in the air, but he cannot name it, so he lowers his head and continues. Across England, the days stretch in calm simplicity. Farmers tend their crops. Blacksmiths hammer iron with a steady rhythm. Weavers pull wool into long threads, humming softly as they work. Fishermen mend their nets, their hands moving in familiar patterns. Children gather berries in the forest, speaking in hushed giggles so as not to scare away birds. Life appears untouched. Yet, slowly, quiet ripples begin to move beneath the surface. Far to the north, where the landscape shifts from rolling hills to rugged cliffs, more villagers have begun whispering. Strange sightings at sea. Sails that do not belong to English traders. Shadows moving on the horizon at sunset. Rumors spreading like ripples on water. But rumors fade quickly in a land used to stories, and no one feels urgency yet. Only curiosity, and then they return to their daily work. Hours later, a lone rider approaches a southern outpost, his horse exhausted, its coat flecked with salt. He speaks in a hushed tone to the guards, words carried away by the wind before anyone can quite catch them. But the look in his eyes is unmistakably serious. Inside the wooden hall, Harold listens patiently to a string of similar reports. He leans forward, his fingers lightly pressed together, his expression soft but focused as he hears. Unusual movements along the northern sea routes, gatherings of longships far beyond England's horizon, uncertain loyalties stirring in Northumbria. Harold does not panic, he lowers his gaze and sighs softly. A sigh filled not with fear, but with concern for the fragile peace. Stretching across the land like thin ice, he dismisses his messenger with gratitude and stands alone for a moment. The candles flicker, their flames bending slightly. As though stirred by something unseen, Harold breathes deeply, and he knows he must soon move north. But he wants to wait just a little longer, to be certain, to be steady, to avoid unnecessary haste. Across the channel, the atmosphere feels different. Normandy hums with quiet preparation. Blacksmiths forge new blades, squires polish mail shirts, until they gleam like rippled water in the sunlight. Stable boys guide restless horses through the courtyards, shipbuilders inspect the hulls of vessels lined neatly along the shore. But everything remains controlled, calm, disciplined. William walks among them with a slow, measured pace. He watches his men, his ships, the horizon, not rushing, not announcing, simply waiting, like a man listening for the perfect breeze before releasing a sail. When he returns to his chamber, he studies the embroidered tapestry that depicts his lineage, tracing the patterns with slow fingertips. Each thread feels like a reminder of destiny, each stitched figure a silent whisper urging him forward. And still, he waits. Patience is his sharpest blade. Meanwhile, in a quiet forest clearing deep in England, a group of shepherds gather around a small fire as the sun dips beneath the trees. The air cools, and the thick scent of pine floats gently through the shadows. They share bread, cheese, soft laughter. One of them mentions hearing that the king may travel north soon. Another shrugs that they've heard stranger stories. Their fire crackles softly. The flames twist upward in warm, glowing ribbons. Moths flutter toward the light, their wings catching the orange shimmer before disappearing back into the dark. England itself feels like this fire, warm and glowing, surrounded by shadows that draw closer each night. Further inland, a traveling merchant sits beside a riverbank, listening to water ripple over smooth stones. He watches the current with a calm smile, thankful for a quiet evening. As he sets up a small tent, he begins humming a tune he learned in childhood, soft and soothing. But then he pauses as he notices something floating in the water, a piece of wood marked with a carved knot pattern. Something not English, something carried by a current from a distant place. That he frowns softly, picks it up, and turns it in his hands. It is small, insignificant, but out of place, like a whisper blown across the sea. That night, the moon rises large and full, bathing England in a pale silver glow. The quiet fields, the coastlines, the forests, all seem peaceful, timeless. But nature often becomes still before a storm. In a small home near the coast, an elderly woman sits by her window, knitting slowly. Her hands move with practiced ease. She looks out at the sea, which shimmers under the moonlight like a sheet of glass. She cannot explain what she senses, only that the water looks more awake tonight than usual. She whispers a prayer, more out of instinct than fear, and returns to her knitting. And so, the kingdom rests at a land breathing in slow, gentle rhythms. A land unaware that two powerful forces, one from the north, one from the south, are now only steps away from converging upon it. The breeze shifts, the night air cools. The first tremors of history move softly beneath the stillness. Take a deep, slow breath, let your chest rise gently, and let the air drift out in a long, soft exhale. Feel your mind settle, your body loosen, and let the world of 1066 return around you like a warm fog rolling through a silent valley. England rests beneath a soft blanket of late summer light. The fields shimmer in muted gold. The rivers glide in slow, reflective currents. Villages glow with the warm hum of daily life, simple, rhythmic, peaceful. Carts roll lazily along dusty roads. Mills turn with a gentle creak beside quiet streams. Children chase each other through meadows, their laughter blending with the wind. Mothers hang linen to dry, watching it sway like pale sails in the breeze. Farmers move through their fields with familiar, unhurried steps. Nothing seems wrong. Nothing seems threatened. England appears suspended in a moment of calm so delicate it feels like a breath held by the land itself. Yet beneath this soft surface, fate continues to weave its silent threads. In the King's Hall, Harold speaks with advisors in a low, steady voice. The hearth burns in gentle orange embers, casting long shadows that stretch across stone walls like distant waves. The mood is calm but thoughtful, less urgent than what is to come, yet heavier than the weeks before. Reports lie on the table, carefully sealed, whispers of movement in the north, rumors of gatherings across the sea. Hints that the winds, which had been strangely stubborn, are beginning to shift. Harold listens patiently. He does not rush, but he waits for clarity like a sailor waiting for the tide. After the council disperses, Harold steps outside into the evening air. The sky glows in muted hues of rose and lavender. He watches a line of swallows streak across the sky, curving and dipping in effortless flight. Their movements are graceful, predictable. Calming, Harold breathes slowly, that he knows he must soon travel north, that he knows the kingdom depends on his steadiness. But for now, he cherishes the quiet, far south at the Norman coast. The mood is different but equally calm. Rows of ships sit in the harbor, perfectly aligned. Their wooden hulls gleam with fresh resin. Ropes creak softly in the steady breeze, creating a rhythm that feels both soothing and anticipatory. William walks down the shoreline with measured, confident steps. The tide washes over the sand in slow, steady breaths. He watches his fleet with an expression of deep patience. He knows the wind will change when the moment is right. He knows destiny sometimes waits at the edge of the horizon before revealing itself. Behind him, the camp glows with lantern light. Men sharpen weapons, polish helmets, tighten straps. Not in frantic preparation, but in quiet readiness. They trust their leader. They trust the moment will come. In the distant north, Hardrada prepares too, though the atmosphere around him is colder, sharper. The nights there darken earlier, and the air bites with hints of approaching autumn. His warriors sit around fires, drinking slowly, speaking in hushed tones of glory, fate, and the unknown lands they will soon approach. The sea near Hardrada's camp murmurs with a deeper voice, a sound shaped by colder waters, harsher winds. He stands on a rocky outcrop overlooking the ocean. The moonlight glints on the waves. His hair stirs gently in the wind. He closes his eyes and feels something in the air. A pull, a call, as though fate is whispering to him, urging him forward. But Hardrada, like William, like Harold, waits. All three men, across three distant shores, breathe the same strange stillness. England lies between them, a quiet island wrapped in late summer calm, unaware that it is becoming the center point of three powerful destinies. Meanwhile, across the countryside, small, almost unnoticed signs begin to appear. A shepherd in Northumbria notices footprints along a cliff path leading down to the sea. Too many, too deep, too unfamiliar. That a fisherman in Kent finds driftwood carved with patterns he's never seen before. A merchant traveling near York hears distant drums echoing faintly in the night wind, so faint he wonders if he imagined it. But after each brief flicker of uncertainty, life returns to its peaceful rhythm. The shepherd guides his flock home, forgetting the prince. The fisherman tosses the driftwood aside, assuming it came from far-off traders. The merchant continues on his way, humming softly to himself beneath the stars in monasteries. Monks light candles at dusk. They chant in low, peaceful tones. They copy manuscripts by dim lamplight, gold and ink shimmering on parchment. Their lives feel eternal, untouched by the world beyond their walls. But even here, the air feels slightly different. A little. Heavier. A little more aware. One monk, sitting alone in the cloister garden, pauses as a sudden breeze rustles the leaves. He closes his eyes and whispers a quiet prayer, not for himself, but for the land that he cannot explain why. Further south, near the Thames, the evening sky glows in deep orange. Boats drift lazily across the river, ripples spreading in soft rings behind them. A group of traders sits by the water's edge, discussing small matters: grain, wool, wine. Yet every so often, their voices drop and someone mentions the word invasion. Spoken as softly as a superstition, they do not believe it. Not fully. Not wide in a quiet cottage beyond the hills. An old man sits beside his hearth, warming his hands by the fire. His granddaughter falls asleep in his lap, her breathing slow and steady. He listens to the crackling flames and feels a strange stirring in the air, a sense he hasn't felt in decades, since the time raids once shook the coast. He holds the child closer and whispers a blessing under his breath. The night deepens, the stars shimmer like scattered embers, and across the land, a calmness settles. Not the peacefulness of safety, but the stillness before a great shift. England breathes in, the world around it breathes out. And somewhere in that soft exchange of silence, destiny begins to move. Take a deep breath now. Let your eyes grow heavier. Feel the story settle into you like a warm blanket. Let your breath soften. Let the world around you dim, and drift gently back into the quiet heart of 1066, where England rests beneath a sky that is beginning, just barely, to change. The morning arrives with a pale, silvery haze, the kind that softens the outlines of everything it touches. The hills appear more rounded, the trees more ghostly, the distant villages almost dreamlike. Dew clings to the grass like tiny gems, sparkling gently in the early light across the countryside. The first sounds of the day rise slowly. A rooster calling, a dog barking lazily, the gentle clatter of wooden buckets, the rhythmic tapping of someone chopping kindling. Life continues with its familiar, comforting patterns, but high above, the wind shifts, not dramatically, not violently, just a subtle turn, like a whisper changing its direction. Villagers do not notice it. Birds do, sails do, and fate does. It is the kind of change that carries possibility across oceans. Inside a quiet manor house, a noblewoman arranges freshly gathered herbs on a table. Sage, lavender, rosemary. Their calming scents blend together, filling the air with warmth. As she works, she pauses for a moment, sensing the breeze move differently through the open window. She doesn't understand the feeling, but it makes her stand still for a heartbeat longer than usual. In another village, a miller stops turning the wheel of his grain cart when he hears an unusual echo carried through the valley, like a distant, rhythmic thumping. He waits, listening, but the sound fades. He returns to his work. Across England, small seconds of stillness appear, fleeting moments when people feel something they cannot name. But soon, each one resumes their life. The land itself, however, feels more awake. Harold, in his chamber, senses it too. That he sits at a wooden desk, parchment stretched before him, but his quill hovers without touching the page. A faint breeze brushes across his shoulders, shifting the candlelight and making the flame dance. He looks toward the window. He feels the change. He cannot explain it, but he knows that whatever comes next will require calm, clarity, and judgment. He has been preparing, waiting, balancing every decision with patience. But now the world seems to breathe differently. He rises and walks toward the window. The view reveals a soft, golden countryside stretching into a thin veil of morning mist. And somewhere beyond that mist lies the coast. Still peaceful, still quiet, but no longer untouched. Harold's mind drifts to the north, to the rumors, to the whispers of longships beyond sight, to the old stories told in hushed tones about northern winds carrying warriors toward distant shores. That he exhales slowly and deeply, that he knows he must go north soon, that he knows waiting is becoming its own kind of risk. But he remains steady. He always remains steady. Elsewhere in Normandy, William steps out onto the shoreline, the sand cool beneath his boots. The tide is low, exposing dark lines of seaweed and smooth stones that glisten in the rising sun. His cloak moves gently behind him, stirred by the same shift in wind felt across England. His men notice nothing unusual, but William does. He lifts his gaze toward the horizon, his eyes narrowing slightly with focus. The breeze carries the scent of salt and the faintest whisper of opportunity. For days, the winds had resisted him. The sea had held him still. But now the air feels different. He closes his eyes for a brief moment, listening to the world around him. The waves roll softly. The gulls call lazily overhead. The ropes of docked ships knock lightly against wooden masts. Everything feels poised. Not tense, not urgent, but expectant. When he opens his eyes again, the sunlight glints across the water like a path leading directly to England. A path waiting to be taken. Far to the north, where the air is sharper and the coasts more rugged, Hardrada stands aboard one of his ships as craftsmen inspect the final details. His long cloak ripples slowly in the cool breeze. His warriors move with calm purpose, preparing supplies, tightening ropes, reinforcing shields. Hardrada breathes deeply, feeling the cold air fill his chest. He senses the winds shift to him. It feels like a sign. A signal that the path ahead is opening. He turns toward Tostig, who watches the preparations with a restless hunger. Their eyes meet, and Hardrada nods. Slowly, knowingly. The time is drawing near. But even as three leaders feel the pull of destiny, the common people continue living in gentle rhythms. In a woodland clearing, children chase fireflies beneath the fading light of evening. Their laughter rings through the trees like tiny bells. One child captures a firefly in her hands, marveling at the soft glow before releasing it into the dusky eye. In a quiet kitchen, a woman kneads dough slowly, humming a lullaby her mother once sang. The warm scent of baking bread fills the room, wrapping her in comfort. In the fields, farmers stack sheaves of grain, the stalks rustling softly like whispering grass. They feel the winds blowing differently but think nothing of it, only that autumn may come early. Inside a tavern, travelers gather around a crackling fire, trading stories of distant lands, of storms on the northern sea, of strange sails glimpsed at dawn, of noble houses preparing quietly behind closed doors. The listeners murmur, shrug, and lift their cups. Stories are stories. Storms come and go. Life remains steady. But not forever. Later that night, under a sky littered with stars, a lone fisherman walks along a moonlit shoreline. The waves wash gently over his feet, pulling and whispering as they retreat. He notices driftwood again. More this time, not from English ships, not from known merchants. He kneels to examine a piece, carved patterns, knots, symbols. He feels a quiet unease settle in his chest. He carries one back to the village, but by morning, it is forgotten among the bustle of chores, children, and daily life. The world continues moving in slow, peaceful circles. Yet fate moves differently. It does not rush. It does not shout. It unfurls like a quiet shadow, shaping itself behind the ordinary moments of each day. And so England drifts deeper into the gentle calm that precedes a great turning. A calm so serene that it almost hides the approaching tide. Almost. Take another slow breath. Let your mind soften. Let your thoughts float. Take a deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs slowly, and let it drift out like a soft cloud dissolving into the night sky. Now gently return once more to England, a land drifting through a delicate calm. A calm that grows thinner each day, like frost melting beneath the morning sun. Late summer is beginning to shift toward early autumn. The days remain warm, but the mornings carry a cooler edge. Fields glow in muted gold, and the shadows stretch just a little longer across the hills. The breeze no longer feels playful. It feels thoughtful, heavy with unspoken change. In the countryside, villagers feel these small shifts but do not dwell on them. They prepare their harvests. They stack firewood for the coming chill. They patch the roofs of their cottages in quiet anticipation of the season ahead. Everything feels normal. Everything feels calm. Yet beneath that calm, fate continues to weave its threads. Inside the royal hall, Harold stands before a large tapestry depicting ancient English kings. The woven colors catch the dim candlelight, creating soft ripples of gold and green across the fabric. He studies the images, not with awe, but with a steady awareness of the weight he now carries. He thinks of the reports arriving from the north. He thinks of the rumors arriving from across the sea. He thinks of the responsibilities that grow heavier by the day. Yet he keeps his breathing slow, his thoughts balanced, his voice calm. For through calmness, he believes, clarity emerges. One of his advisors approaches and speaks quietly, offering the latest news. Harold listens with a soft expression. Not fearful, not frustrated, simply present. When the advisor finishes, Harold thanks him gently and asks for time alone. When the hall empties, Harold remains standing before the tapestry, watching the candlelight flicker across it. The flames shift and bend, casting shadows that move like gentle waves. He knows the moment to act is coming. Not today, not this hour, but soon. He steps toward the window and looks out at the countryside. The fields glow under the pale sunlight, smoke rises from distant hearths. The world seems peaceful, almost too peaceful. He breathes again, long and slow. Far across the channel in Normandy, William sits at a wooden table, polishing the edge of a blade with calm, rhythmic movements. Not hurried, not forceful, almost meditative. His chamber is filled with the warm glow of torches. Shadows sway across the stone walls like slow-moving tides. Outside, the faint sound of waves reaches through the open window. William pauses in his polishing and looks toward the sea. He senses something shifting as well, something subtle but unmistakable. His men continue their quiet preparations beyond the walls, and no shouting and no rush, only steady, patient readiness. He knows the winds will soon change. He knows the moment he has waited for will come, and when it does, he will move with the precision of a tide returning to shore. Meanwhile, in the cold northern lands, Hardrada walks along the shore with heavy but steady steps. The sky overhead deepens into shades of gray and silver. Waves crash softly against the rocks, sending up cool spray that touches his cloak like cold fingers. He watches the sea with a softness unusual for a warrior of his renown. The air hums with possibility. The salt wind carries something forward, a quiet promise of a final chapter waiting across the water behind him. His men prepare without hesitation. They tighten ropes, sharpen axes, check the longships one last time. Yet even here, in the heart of a warrior camp, there is stillness, a sense of breath, being held. Hardrada closes his eyes. He feels the weight of his long life, his victories, his losses. He imagines the long journey to come, the unknown shores, the final test awaiting him. He opens his eyes slowly, and the sea before him looks endless, patient, inviting. While these three forces stand on the edges of action, England continues breathing in quiet rhythms. In a meadow near Northumbria, two young sisters gather wildflowers, daisies, poppies, and pale yellow primroses. They laugh softly as they braid them into garlands, weaving colors together with small, careful fingers. In a simple cottage, a father teaches his son how to tie fishing knots. The boy's hands fumble at first, clumsy with the rope, but the father guides him gently, never raising his voice. In a town square, a storyteller speaks to a small group gathered beneath an old oak tree. He shares tales of ancient kings, forgotten battles, and mythical creatures. The children sit with wide eyes. The adults sip from wooden cups, letting the story wash over them like warm rain. Life continues, soft, steady, unaware. Yet even the most peaceful days carry hints of what approaches. A shepherd notices more gulls circling inland. A merchant hears unfamiliar voices on the road, speaking in accents not English, not Danish, not Norman. A sailor wakes in the middle of the night from a dream of sails filling the horizon. But each person returns to their routine. Dreams are dreams. Birds are birds. The horizon is always shifting still. When the wind blows across the land now, it carries a different note, at a different weight, at a faint, distant urgency woven beneath its gentleness. That night, as stars shine faintly through a thin veil of cloud, Harold takes one last walk through the palace courtyard. The torches flicker in the cool air. The stone beneath his feet feels solid, grounding that he stops near a small fountain. Its water shimmering softly in the moonlight, and listens not for voices, not for threats, but for the quiet hum of the world itself. He senses it, the shift, the pull, the approach of something vast. He closes his eyes and breathes deeply, letting the air settle into him, calming the thoughts that stir like restless leaves. Then he returns inside, ready to face the coming days with the same steady resolve he has always carried. Take a slow, deep breath now. Let your body sink deeper into rest. Feel the story wrap around you like a soft blanket. Take a slow breath in, let it rise softly through your chest, and let it fall like a gentle feather drifting toward the earth. Allow your thoughts to loosen, your body to grow heavier, your mind to sink deeper into the calm world of England. Still resting, still unaware, still wrapped in a delicate silence as the summer of 1066 begins its final descent toward autumn. The day begins softly, a thin veil of mist clings to the meadows, folding itself gently around tall grasses swaying in the morning breeze. Dewdrops glitter on leaves like beads of glass. The sky stretches pale and muted, as though painted with soft strokes of lavender and silver. In a quiet valley, a flock of sheep grazes peacefully. There will catches tiny pearls of dew as they move, slow and unhurried. The shepherd leans on his wooden staff, listening to the soothing hum of the wind drifting between the hills. He feels the coolness of the air and thinks, briefly, that autumn might be coming early this year. But he shrugs off the thought and returns to watching his flock. Meanwhile, in a small cottage nearby, a woman opens her shutters to greet the morning light. She stands for a moment, letting the breeze brush against her cheeks, carrying the scent of damp earth, cut hay, and distant heather. She ties her apron gently and begins kneading dough, her hands moving in calm, practiced motions. The soft thud of her palms hitting the dough blends with birdsong outside the window. Everything feels steady, predictable, safe. But the wind continues its subtle shift. In a monastery perched on a gentle rise above the river, monks move through their morning ritual. Their bare feet glide over the stone floor. Their robes whisper quietly as they pass through the narrow hallways. The chant begins low, warm, echoing faintly through the arches. A humming tide of voices rising and falling, soft as a lullaby, timeless as breath. One monk pauses mid-chant, feeling a faint, unfamiliar pull in the air. But he lowers his head and continues, letting the rhythm carry him forward, across the countryside. Other small signs appear. A woodcutter stops mid-swing because the wind carries a faint scent of salt deeper inland than usual. A hunter notices geese migrating sooner than expected. A farmer repairing his fence hears an echo of distant thunder, though the sky above remains clear and pale. The land feels unsettled, though gently so, like a sleeping giant rolling beneath a blanket. Harold, in London, senses this shift more clearly than most. He stands in the palace courtyard, watching sunlight spill across the cobblestones. Servants move quietly around him, tending to morning tasks. Knights polish their shields in the soft light. The crackle of torches fading from the night still lingers faintly in the air. Harold breathes deeply. He feels the coolness in the wind. He feels the subtle weight in the atmosphere. He knows the time to travel north is drawing close. Inside his chamber, parchment lies rolled neatly across the wooden table. Maps of England spread beneath glass weights. Harold studies them with steady eyes, tracing the routes he might soon take. He thinks of Northumbria. Fractured, restless, unpredictable. He thinks of Tostig. Brother, rival, exile. He thinks of rumors. Unverified, unsettling, persistent. Yet Harold remains calm, but he rests his hands lightly on the table and closes his eyes, letting his thoughts drift like slow-moving tides. He has learned that clarity often comes in stillness, not haste. And so he waits. Across the sea in Normandy, William tests the breeze by lifting a thin strip of cloth into the air. It flutters, then falls. He repeats the motion, patient as always, reading the wind like a longtime friend. The shore behind him is quiet. Ships line the harbor like sleeping beasts waiting for the signal to awaken. Their hulls glow faintly with morning light. Ropes sway gently, tapping the masts in soft, rhythmic clicks. William's gaze is unreadable. His mind moves in layers. Strategy, predictions, calculations, and beneath them, a sense of inevitability. Everything is nearly ready. Everything is close. He walks along the sand, boots pressing soft imprints that the tide slowly reaches toward. When he stops, he looks out across the water with a calmness so deep it feels carved into his bones. The wind touches his cloak, colder than usual. That he knows what that means. He turns back toward the camp. The time is not yet now, but it is very near, far north. Hardrada stands in a pine forest just beyond his camp, leaning against the trunk of an ancient tree. The air here smells of resin and cold soil. His longships rest on the shingle beach below. Ready and waiting, he listens to the creaking of branches, the distant crash of waves, the muted murmur of his warriors preparing below. He feels alive, awake, focused. That a final journey lies ahead of him, that a final test, a final chance to carve his name into the stories of men. The wind brushes through the trees. Hardrada lifts his head and whispers something in his native tongue. A quiet vow, a promise to fate, a farewell to the life he has known. And then he returns to the camp. The men look to him. That he nods once. Calm, sure, patient. They understand. Meanwhile, in England, life continues with its gentle rhythm. In a village square, families gather for a small harvest festival. Children run in circles, their laughter rising into the warm air. A musician plucks quiet notes on a stringed instrument. Merchants share simple jokes. The world feels light, almost weightless. Nobody imagines what the next weeks will bring. No1 foresees the convergence of 3 armies. No1 anticipates the reshaping of a kingdom. They taste honey and bread. They dance. They breathe. They live in a forest clearing. An old hunter kneels beside a stream, washing his hands in the cool water. He sees his reflection ripple gently across the surface. He feels a strange stillness nearby, like the hush before a storm. But he wipes his hands dry and returns to his path. At the edge of a beach, a fisherman mends his nets with practiced calm. He hums a tune passed down from his father, steady and slow. Then he looks up, squinting at the horizon. For a moment, just a moment, he thinks he sees shapes moving far out on the water. He rubs his eyes, looks again. Gone. He shakes his head softly, returns to his work, and lets the thought drift away like a forgotten breeze. That evening, the sky glows in washes of pink and gold. Torches begin to flicker in the towns. Chimneys breathe thin trails of smoke. The world curls into quiet, preparing for night. Harold sits in his chamber beside a dim candle. The flame dances slowly, casting soft shadows across. His face. He closes his eyes and listens, not to messengers, not to murmurs, but to the world itself. He feels the shift in the air more clearly now. The approaching hinge of history. the moment drawing close like a tide returning to shore that he breathes steadily, letting calm fill him like warm light that he will go north soon, very soon, but tonight, he rests in the quiet before the storm. Take a slow, deep breath, let your shoulders release, let your thoughts drift like mist across a quiet field, and gently return once more to England, where the calm before the storm grows deeper, heavier, almost sacred in its silence. The last days of summer unfold in soft golden light. The sun sits lower in the sky now, stretching long shadows across meadows and villages. Trees rustle with the faintest hint of autumn. The air carries a coolness that wasn't there before, a coolness that settles along. The skin like the touch of something unseen. England moves through these days with quiet grace that I in a small village on the eastern coast. A blacksmith steps outside his workshop, wiping soot from his hands. He feels the breeze shift and looks instinctively toward the sea. The horizon seems softer, blurred slightly by an unusual haze. He blinks, wondering if it's just the light. But then he hears only the calm clang of his anvil behind him, and he returns to his work. A baker in the same village lights a fire in her oven, preparing loaves for the evening. The smell of rising dough fills her small home, warm and comforting. She pauses at the window, sensing something different in the air, but she cannot name it. She thinks perhaps she's simply tired. A group of boys play near the rocky shoreline, skipping stones across the water. The stones skim across the surface with soft, rhythmic taps. One boy tosses a stone farther than the rest, and it disappears into the deep with a gentle plunk. As the ripples widen, he swears he sees something far in the distance, something large, but the others laugh and pull him away, and the thought drifts from his mind. The calm before the first footstep continues in Northumbria, where cliffs rise against cold seas and winds move with sharper edges. Villages feel a different kind of quiet that it isn't fear, it's awareness. An instinct older than memory. A fisherman in a tiny harbor wakes before dawn and steps outside, only to find that the tide has retreated unusually far. He frowns, such tides are rare. He looks out beyond the exposed rocks and benches of wet sand, and though he sees nothing, he senses the presence of something approaching still. He returns home. There are nets to repair. Life continues at the same time. Harold's movements changed. He no longer walks slowly through the orchard. He no longer spends the morning in patient reflection. His steps are measured, purposeful, quietly decisive. A messenger arrives, tired, dust-covered, breathing heavily, and hands Harold a sealed message. Harold opens it, reading in silence as candlelight flickers across his face. The words confirm what the winds have been whispering for days: activity in the north, more sightings, unsettling patterns. He closes his eyes briefly. Not in fear, but in acknowledgement. He has felt this coming. The time is nearly here. He gives calm instructions to his brothers, each spoken with soft clarity. Preparations, provisions, movement, and no rushed, and no panic. Only readiness. As Harold begins to prepare, so does the world itself. In Normandy, William stands before his assembled captains. The torches lining the walls cast warm, trembling light across their armor. Outside, the calm sea breathes quietly against the sand. William listens as they report. The men are ready, the supplies are stocked, the horses are prepared, the ships wait. He nods slowly, absorbing each detail like a man tasting the final notes of a long-anticipated feast. Still, he does not give the order. Not yet. The wind is close, but still uncertain. He steps outside, onto the quiet shore. He kneels, scooping a handful of cool sand into his palm. He lets it slip through his fingers. Watching how it falls, the wind pushes it gently inland. He watches again. And again. A faint smile touches his lips. Soon, meanwhile, far across the rugged northern waters, Hardrada's ships are nearly ready to depart. The longships gleam in the cold light, dark, sleek, frighteningly beautiful in their simplicity. Warriors gather in small clusters, checking their gear, sharpening blades with slow, careful strokes. Hardrada walks among them, hands clasped behind his back, the wind tugging at his cloak. His presence alone brings a calmness to his camp. Even among men who thrive in storms, he stops near the prow of his great ship. The carved dragon head stares forward, as if hungry for the sea ahead. Hardrada places a hand on it gently. He feels the old thrill, but also a profound peace. This is not the beginning of a conquest. It feels like the closing of a story. He breathes in the cold air. Soon, back in England, evening begins to fall. The sky glows deep orange, slowly fading into warm shades of rose. And copper, smoke rises from chimney tops in thin curls. The bells of a distant church ring softly through the twilight air. People settle in for supper. Fires crackle in hearths. Children curl beneath wool blankets. Dogs settle by doorways. Everything feels calm. Almost too calm that a farmer walking home pauses in the path as a sudden gust of wind ruffles the trees. The leaves flutter wildly and fall silent again. He looks around, sensing something he cannot explain, then continues onward, shaking off the feeling. A woman carrying water buckets stops at the sound of faint thunder. She looks up, but the sky above is clear. Not a storm, something else. She releases a slow breath and continues walking. The silence of expectation spreads across the land like a soft shadow. Inside the palace, Harold holds a candle, watching the flame flicker. It moves differently tonight. Its dance is subtle, but not random. The flame leans toward the north, as if pointing him forward. That he breathes deeply. He understands. He whispers something. Not a command, not a prayer, but an acknowledgement of what must come. He sets the candle down gently. Across England, nighttime settles in full. Stars appear one by one, faint at first, then bright. Crickets begin their evening chorus. The rivers glimmer beneath the moonlight, and miles away, at sea, something moves, slow, silent, steadied at a shape, then another. A ripple. A shift in the water. A shadow stretching toward England. Not close enough to see, not close enough to fear, but close enough that the world feels it. A dog in a coastal village lifts its head. A baby stirs in its cradle. A candle in a monastery flickers sideways. A sailor waking from sleep feels a chill run along his spine. Something is coming, but England sleeps. Take a deep breath now. Let the stillness settle inside your chest. Let your mind drift deeper. And when you are ready to continue into the gentle, quiet threshold before history breaks open, before we return to England, breathe in through the nose and slowly out through the mouth, letting the weight of your day loosen, drift, and fall away like dust carried off by a soft wind. Feel the warmth around your chest. Feel your pulse calming. Feel your thoughts slowing, as if each one is a small leaf floating down a gentle river. Good. Now let yourself drift back into the twilight of the 11th century, a world where the night settles heavily, deeply, and the future gathers itself in silence. England rests in a bowl of darkness, but far away, across oceans, forests, and northern skies, three destinies move like slow, massive tides, all turning, all drifting, all converging. The night is long and quiet, and somewhere beyond the horizon, the first hints of change begin to wake. Harold sleeps lightly. His chamber is dim, lit only by the faint orange glow of a dying fire. Shadows ripple along the stone walls, moving like soft waves as the embers crackle and settle. The air is cool, carrying the scent of wax, wool, and distant sea breezes slipping through the narrow window. Harold has not known true rest in months, yet tonight, sleep finally begins to take hold. His breath grows slow. His hand loosens at his side. The tension leaves his brow. But even in rest, something inside him listens. A soft knock sounds at the door, not loud enough to wake him fully, but enough for his mind to stir beneath the surface of sleep. The door opens just a fraction. A servant peeks. In sees the king resting and quietly withdraws. She carries a message, sealed in wax, pressed with the mark of a northern earl. But she does not wake him. Not yet. The message can wait. The night cannot, outside. The clouds drift slowly across a moon that hangs like a pale coin above the dark countryside. The wind shifts again. Slight, almost imperceptible, but different enough that the guards on the walls notice. Their torches flicker. Their cloaks rustle. The air feels tighter, charged with something that cannot be named. A young guard rubs his arms, glancing northward that he doesn't know why, but he feels watched. Not by a person, not by an animal, but by time itself. He exhales and returns to his patrol, boots soft against the stone. Far to the north, the sea glimmers beneath the moonlight like a sheet of fractured glass. A cold breeze ripples across the surface, and longships sway gently in their harbors, their carved prows rising and falling as if breathing in their sleep. The warriors resting on shore lie curled in furs, some snoring softly, others staring into the dying glow of campfires. A few sharpen their blades by habit, even though they need no sharpening. The metallic rhythm, slow, deliberate, unhurried, echoes across the quiet camp. Hardrada stands alone on a cliff overlooking the water. His cloak flutters behind him. Catching the pale light, he stares at the horizon, where the sky and sea merge in a seamless band of cold silver. He does not look like a man preparing for conquest. He looks like a man watching the ending of a long journey. He breathes the night air deeply, letting it fill his lungs with the cold clarity only the far north knows. He feels age in his bones, experience in his muscles, and a strange peace in his heart. He whispers to the night, words only the wind could hear. Soon, at that same moment in Normandy, William walks along the shoreline. His boots press into wet sand, leaving crisp, deep footprints that the tide gently licks at but cannot erase. The sea before him is unnaturally stilled and no waves. Only slow movement like the breathing of some enormous creature beneath the surface. He watches a thin cloud drift across the moon. The reflection stretches and bends across the water like liquid gold. Around him, his men sleep in tents, their armor stacked neatly beside them, their swords wrapped in cloth. Horses rest tied to posts, tails flicking occasionally as they dream. William stops walking and closes his eyes. He listens. The sound of the ocean, the faint crackle of fires behind him, the soft murmurs of sleeping soldiers, and something else. Something in the wind that feels almost like a whisper of fate brushing against his ear. He opens his eyes slowly. He knows what it means. His ships are ready, his cause is fixed. His ambition is steady. But the wind decides when history moves. He kneels, just as he has done many nights before. He presses his hand into the sand, feeling the cool grains slip between his fingers. Not tonight, he murmurs. I in the space between worlds, in that fragile band of twilight where fate gathers momentum, the land grows still. England, Normandy, and Norway all breathe in the same quiet rhythm, unaware that every inhale draws them closer, and every exhale ties their destinies tighter. The night deepens in a tiny monastery high in the hills of Mercia. Monks chant their final prayers of the evening. Their voices echo softly through the stone halls, a long, low drone that vibrates in the air like a living presence. One monk pauses, noticing a candle flame flicker sideways. He places a hand near it, testing for a breeze. None comes. The flame steadies again. He shrugs and continues his chant, unaware that the world around him shifts in subtle ways. Always subtle, always quiet, always pushing toward what must come. In a small farmhouse near York, a young mother rocks her baby by the fire. The baby stirs, tiny fingers curling and uncurling, eyes opening just long enough to look around before drifting back into sleep. She hums a gentle tune, her voice soft as a summer breeze. The song is old, older than she knows, passed down through generations, through invasions, through times of peace, through times of fear. Outside her window, An owl takes flight, drifting silently across the fields. Its wings cut through the air with grace, barely making a sound. The owl glides over a road where a lone traveler walks, cloak pulled tight around him. He is a messenger, carrying letters between nobles. His horse went lame earlier in the day, and now he walks, boots worn, steps quiet but steady. He thinks of the words inside the sealed letters. He thinks of rumors he has heard. He thinks of kings and claimants and armies waiting for wind and destiny. But above all, he thinks of getting home. That he whispers a prayer into the night. The road stretches ahead of him like a dark ribbon. That I in the south, near London, Harold finally wakes. He sits up slowly, rubbing sleep from his eyes. The room is cold. The fire has died. Only a single candle burns low on the table beside him. The servant from earlier now approaches, bowing her head as she hands him the message. He reads it carefully. More sightings in the north. More movements. More signs. He closes the message with a calm, steady breath. It is no longer a question of if. It is a question of when. He stands, pulling his cloak around him. He does not rush. He does not panic. Every movement is slow, deliberate, almost peaceful. That he walks to the window and looks out across the quiet world, the fields, the forests, the distant outlines of sleeping homes, all so calm, all so unaware of the coming tide. He places his hand on the cold stone of the windowsill. He feels the weight of leadership, but he also feels something else, a deep, grounding resolve. The night holds its breath. That in Normandy, William returns to camp. The wind changes direction, only slightly, but enough. He smiles. That in Norway, Hardrada descends from the cliff. That he feels the same shift. He nods once, as if acknowledging an old friend. Across the sea, longships begin to awaken, torches light. Voices rise softly, ropes creak, wood groans, waves lap against hulls. The world begins to move, but not in violence, not in chaos. Not wide. It moves the way dawn moves across a quiet field. Slowly, gently, silently, until the moment light breaks. For now, everything is calm. That in this final quiet before the storm, feel yourself drifting deeper, softer, more peacefully into the story. As all three destinies, Harold, William, and Hardrada, draw closer and closer toward the moment England will never forget. Let yourself settle. Feel the breath moving slowly in and slowly out, like a tide that knows no hurry. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let your shoulders soften. Let your mind open just enough to welcome the quiet flow of the story. Tonight, we drift into the final calm, the last stillness before England's world begins to shift forever. The dawn is still hours away. The night is deep and cool, bending gently over the land like a soft blanket. Everything feels suspended, as though time itself is holding its breath. Harold walks through his camp silently, not as a king inspecting soldiers, not as a commander preparing for war, but as a man listening to the world in its most fragile state of stillness. The grass is wet beneath his boots. The faint glow of dying campfires flickers in patches, painting the tents in soft golds and oranges. Most of the men sleep soundly, their armor stacked beside them, their swords wrapped in cloth to keep the night air from kissing the metal. Harold pauses beside one fire. A young soldier sleeps there, curled in his cloak, lips parted, fingers still gripping a wooden charm given to him by his mother. Harold kneels beside him. He adjusts the cloak gently, pulling it higher across the soldier's shoulders. The young man does not wake. Harold's hand lingers for a moment, a quiet acknowledgement of the lives that rest in his guidance. He stands again, continuing his quiet walk. The night sky above is a dome of stars, shimmering faintly through thin streaks of cloud. The moon hangs low, its pale glow reflecting in puddles left from last evening's light rain. The air smells of earth, wet wool, and distant sea salt. Harold breathes deeply. It is strange. He thinks, How peaceful the world can seem even when it stands on the edge of irreversible change. He stops near the far edge of camp where the fields stretch outward into darkness. If he listens carefully enough, he can hear the low, rhythmic hum of the distant sea, like a giant heart beating far beneath the horizon. He closes his eyes. For a few moments, he allows himself to forget the weight of crowns, oaths, claims, and rivals. For a brief second, he is simply Harold, a man born into a world that did not ask who wished to rule, only who was strong enough to try. That he remains there, still, breathing in the gentle wind. Not far away, in a monastery overlooking the coast, a monk sits awake. His candle flickers as he copies an ancient text, his quill moving slowly but steadily across the parchment. That he pauses, sensing a subtle shift in the air. That he stands and moves to the window down below. The shoreline lies quiet, but something in the air, in the faint vibration of the world, feels different. That he whispers a prayer for peace. He does not know who the prayer is for. Perhaps for England, perhaps for the men sailing across the waters, perhaps for the world itself. Meanwhile, across the sea, William watches the horizon. That he stands on the deck of his flagship, wrapped in a heavy cloak. Lanterns swing gently from the masts, casting circles of soft gold on the polished wood. The sea is calm, unnaturally calm, like a sleeping animal too weary to stir. William rests his hand on the rail. The salt wind lifts his hair slightly. That he feels it, the change in the wind, the shift in the tide. His fleet, restless for days, now rocks in a slow, purposeful rhythm as if awakened by some invisible command. Behind him, thousands of men sleep in their ships. Some dream of glory, some dream of home, some dream of nothing at all. A knight wakes, blinking up at the moonlight. He listens to the soft creak of ropes, the gentle thud of wood against water. He feels the ship swaying and senses that he is closer. Closer to something vast. He lies back down, murmuring a quiet prayer he learned as a child. His eyes close. Sleep returns to him like a tide rolling slowly over the shore. William does not pray. Instead, he listens. He listens to the waves, the wind, the deep silence beneath everything. He listens for the moment the world will give him permission to move. That he rests his palm on the wooden rail and whispers, almost too quietly to hear. Soon, far to the north, Hardrada rises before dawn. The camp around him sleeps heavily, a forest of tents lit faintly by the dying glow of scattered embers. He steps away from the camp, standing at the edge of a quiet river. The water flows smoothly, reflecting the moonlight in long ribbons of silver. Hardrada crouches, scoops water into his hands, and drinks. The cold shocks him awake, but in a grounding, steady way. He feels the clarity of a man who knows he has stepped onto the final page of his story. Raven flies overhead, its wings cutting the air with soft, steady beats. Hardrada watches it go. He feels no fear, only the deep, iron-bound calm of a man who has lived at the edge of the world and returned countless times. He whispers a verse from an old saga, then stands and looks toward the south, toward England. For a long moment, he simply breathes. Somewhere between England, Normandy, and Norway, the world tilts, not in violence, not in chaos, but in quiet inevitability, as if fate is a great wheel. Finally beginning to turn, clouds drift slowly over the moon. The wind stills, the night deepens. Harold returns to his tent. He lies down, pulling his cloak around him, and stares at the tent's ceiling as shadows sway in the darkness. His eyes grow heavy, but his mind remains calm. He thinks of the land he must protect. He thinks of the men sleeping just outside, their fate intertwined with his. He thinks of the sea, carrying with it the future. Eventually, he closes his eyes. Outside, the world remains, in perfect equilibrium, a moment of total stillness, the deep breath before the dawn breaks, before armies move, before three destinies collide. Let that stillness wash over you. Let it relax your muscles. Let it soften your breath. Let it slow your thoughts. Let it draw you deeper and deeper into rest. For now, nothing stirs. Nothing presses forward. Nothing demands action. The world simply waits, and as it waits, so do you, drifting, resting, floating in the quiet warmth of this final peaceful night before everything changes.